privileged to be here with you.
I mean, we are rolling. The results are starting to trickle in. This is what Christmas Day. This is like Christmas morning for people in Missouri politics.
But we get it twice a year because we got it tonight and then we get it at the general election.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like this is really Christmas. That's kind of like Easter, right? It's good, or Thanksgiving, good stuff, but like this is Christmas.
And it's going to be hard to top these primary fights.
John, I tell you, just starting off, I've never seen a time when things were so tight and so up in the air. I've never seen one.
And I've never seen so many races that'll come down to 2, 3, maybe 4% across the state.
I guess I'm a little born with thoughts that I believe that they're going to break harder. I don't know that they're going to break like you're thinking where they're close. I think some of these races will break hard. I just think there's no way to really tell which way they're going to break. I'll go back to, I've said this a lot of times on the radio. In my view, I think we've had a scenario where when people, if you track the two primaries that were kind of like this, 16 and 22, the 22 Senate race, Schmidt started taking off right around the 4th of July. Greitens, the same thing. Maybe a day or two before, a day or two after. They might not have been in a lead, but their trajectory to winning, in Schmidt's case, a huge win. In Greitens' case, a substantial victory, started around that time. If you think about it, folks, working a job, raising a family, going to ball games, vacation, then you pile on, you have a president go comatose during a debate.
Absolutely.
One gets shot in the ear.
Yeah.
The actual president quits running, and then they have a new candidate burst onto the scene. That is a lot while they're trying to focus on this stuff.
There has been so much big national news that's drowned out these local ads. And I think, too, we've also seen, let's face it, a tightening in the last week or so in the governor's race.
I think there's been a tightening. I think maybe this is where this race was going to be all along. Speaking of tonight, we are going to bring you the results of obviously the big race, the governor's race, right here on the board just beside me. We're going to go to throughout the night. We're going to bring you updates on not just the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race, AG's race, treasurer's race, secretary of state. Then we're going to walk down. I'm telling you, maybe the most important thing is this list of primaries in the state Senate race. We're going to tell you who's going to win in Senate District 3 in the Lead Belt. We're going to take you to the city of Kansas City, the Ward Parkway folks. You're going to elect a new state senator between Patty Lewis and Pat Contreras. Independence, a big fight that's gotten tight here at the end. Aaron McMullen, a representative here in town, versus Joe Nicola, a guy that ran two years ago for state senate. In the 13th, the North County battle, John's folks fighting back and forth. You have a representative challenging Senator Mosley. Then you have the 15th, West County, and these are more John's people. David Gregory, Mark Carter, Jim Bolin. The 21st, I think it's the biggest race on tap. You have urban versus rural. You have the ultimate suburban candidate, Doug Ritchie, terrific politician, against a farmer and a Mizzou guy in Curtis Gregory. In the 23rd, probably the nastiest race on the whole ballot, Phil Cristofanelli, Adam Schnelting in St. Charles. If there's going to be a nasty race, it would be in St. Charles. Then the 27th, down in Cape Girardeau, all the way over through the southern tip of the Lead Belt. Jamie Berger and Chris Dinkins battling it out. The 29th, big fight, where you go in with Rick Bratton, Mike Hafner, Dan Houcks. The 31st, you have Mike. I think 29th, Mike Moon versus Susan Harrelson. Then the 33rd, Travis Smith and Brad Hudson. It is going to be a night that so many of these races, John, I got to be honest with you, when you really break this down, I don't know. I could pick you who I'd rather be in all those races, but I'm not confident about very many. I don't know. Give me a race that you think you could predict the outcome right now.
I think there are very few, and I think that there are so many where, Scott, you've talked about this on the radio before, where what kind of a Senate are we going to see next year? And are we going to see a whole lot of dysfunction, or are we going to see people that want to work together? And the winner of some of these primaries tonight will dictate what we see next January.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're Cindy O'Loughlin, there's going to be a lot of folks question if you see some of the folks who just are in a group that basically says, we're out to make her life terrible.
Yep.
She didn't do a lot to thwart them publicly. Now, behind the scenes. I think the story of this will be you made the same mistake Schatz made the same mistake Grattan made. Your enemies, who are openly your enemies, they organize. They work together and coordinate. You may not have. I think it's a great lesson for whoever becomes Senate Majority Floor Leader in November to say, did this work, did this not work? And if it didn't work, number one of the others are probably going to be the floor leader. If you do one more cycle of this after this one, let's talk about a race that you think you know the outcome. Give me one that you think you know how it's going to turn out.
Are we talking statewide races or state senate
Both.
races? I think Vivic Malik is about as close as we have in this election to a lock. I think Vivic had just too much money. And I think the criticisms of Vivic and the work he's done and maybe a little bit about his business dealings, I think they came too late to matter.
Right. I also think we have a couple shout outs here as we get going. One, to the United States Senator Eric Schmidt watching at home, and our man Caleb Jones. Very glad to have you all watch all night tonight. DM me, DM John. We're going to have our laptops up, but DM us anything you're seeing, anything you think that we need to know about. DM me, or you can just text me. My number is 573-429-5770. I give that out, and you could also send your hate text. That's fine, too. Send me any tips you got. This is going to be your election central for Missouri results. You're not going to just hear St. Louis. You're not going to hear Kansas City. AP for Liberty, love you, buddy. You're going to hear the entire state of Missouri, all the state's election results coming right here, election night in Missouri, starting off with Clay County, the absentees. Yeah, very tight. Clay County, well, not tight, 40% for Gregory, the rest with Richie. You go over with the absentees, missing Ray and Clay. So the part that you thought Curtis Gregg would do very well, and he hit 73% in Clay. Richie hit 60% in the absentees. I think the truth is when you only have a little information, you overvalue it. That race is going to be nip and tuck down to the end. And
I think, too, that that's a perfect example of a race where we've seen some would call it interference, some would call it help from outside groups, and especially arms and legs on the ground, knocking on doors, particularly in the case of Doug Ritchie. As we get going here, I want to thank our sponsors that allowed us to bring this to you tonight. United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and then, of course, Sun Solar, folks down in Springfield, helping us bring this election. We appreciate you, Senator Leibler, for chiming in. Always good to have him. I'll give you one. A race that I thought was on the way to Lincoln Huff. I always thought if Lincoln was tied on election day, he had a chance to win. I would have said that about Holly, too, be the only woman, but Lincoln actually had a ground game. He actually had a campaign. Then last night, at the very last moment, Trump comes in and endorses Wassinger and Rader. Yeah. Just back me up. I don't like the thought of Trump doing these multi-candidate endorsements to Missouri. It almost feels like you're giving Missouri a little bit of short shift. Yeah, and I think let's be honest, it's a little bit disrespectful to come in at the literal 11th hour before an election and pick 2 out of the 3, and not even just pick one, not even just pick David, who was, I believe, a delegate for Trump in 2016. I know he was at the convention. I think that this pattern of disrespect to states, I don't think it's going to bode well for Trump. Yeah, it just also one of the things about Trump, he's decisive. Donald Trump can make a decision. Yeah. You might not like what he says. You might not like his decision, but he can make one. If you endorse everyone in a race, or even two in a race, did you make a decision? And the challenging thing, if you're David or if you're Holly, is you don't have enough time to capitalize this. Sure, you can do social, but you can't change your literature. You can't change your door hangers. You can't even change your TV ads to reflect that endorsement. I was very impressed with the Wassinger campaign. The Wassinger campaign last night on television had a endorsed by Trump banner, but it was over their commercial. Yeah. It was no picture of Trump. It was just their normal commercial with a red banner endorsed by Trump. I'm with you. I think there's a lot of folks. I actually was at dinner at Grand Cafe tonight, and I talked to a Senate Chief of Staff who did not know Trump had made an endorsement. I do think that 11th hour is just so tough. I'll give you a prediction, though. Okay. I think Bailey has a very good chance of maintaining being Attorney General. I think the $16 million spent against him, the guy's going to be almost bulletproof going forward. And I think the problem was, even with all those millions, and millions and millions and millions, I don't think they ever gave a good reason why you fire the war hero. I think so too, and I think that, I think maybe a little bit later on in the show we're going to talk about some of the top ads of the cycle. Yep. And I think that if Will Scharf, even though Will Scharf did not direct the production of the ad from Defend Missouri PAC, I think if Will Scharf could take that one back, I think their campaign would take that ad back. I do too, and I actually think the person I know of Will Scharf, not in the part of a campaign, would pull that back. Because let's be honest, in these campaign ads, you can find something bad to say about someone. Absolutely. It's not that big a deal. There was plenty to criticize A.G. Bailey for a few things that didn't have to go. And Scott, you sat here at the table with Angela Kopke and talked a little bit about the family of the victim. And I just think that Will Scharf is not the type of man that if he had a chance to do that over again, I agree with you. I firmly agree with you. I'll give you another one. There's an old George Jones song, "The Winner Loses On," and there's a better one that I think might apply here. There's an old Garth Brooks song about unanswered prayers. Amen. I think
I think if Will Sharp wins this, I don't think he'll be as happy as he was a year ago today. And I think if he loses this, he's going to be a federal judge, maybe a Supreme Court judge. I think he might look back on his life and say, I'm glad I dodged a bullet there.
Absolutely.
I think he's that. But I think part of the reason why I think he'll be so successful is I think if he had his marble back, he would not run the ad. After the family, look, there's so many attacks. You could say an AG is soft on crime for 1,000 different reasons. Sure. I think once he saw the pushback of the family, the guy I know pulls that ad back. Like, I don't think he probably even knew they were against it. But by the time he's made aware, I think they take their marble back on that.
And perhaps most importantly, the ad has been a distraction for the Scharf campaign. Even if it might not have hurt him in the polls, depending on which poll you look at, it was still a distraction. It was something that Will had to talk about more than he wanted to.
Well, John, we are going to be joined by the president of rural Missouri. I say we take a moment here. We take a break. We refill our United Fiber Yeti cups. Shout out to Jim.
The Yeti.
Jim Badgley bringing these in. Very grateful to have all of you joining us. Thank you so much. We're going to be right back after this with the president of rural Missouri, Garrett Hawkins. Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882, turning Missouri into a right
Combest, myself, joining you for all the Missouri election results all night. We are now joined by the president of rural Missouri, Garrett Hawkins. Thank you for making the time.
Hey, appreciate the invite.
There was a difference in Farm Bureau this year. You made a decision. We're going to engage in these primaries. I personally thought it was tough, brave, and I think very effective for the cause of advocating for rural Missouri. Our destiny will be done in these primaries.
You're right, and that's where our members have seen for months now. I mean, Farm Bureau is, if you think of it like a big ship, right? We don't always turn real quickly, but when our members did.
And very seldom.
Very seldom. But when they did, they moved in a big way in terms of recognizing that Farm Bureau needed to engage. And I think for any of the candidates who earned the Farm Bureau endorsement, they saw that ground game in the form of excitement in county after county across the state.
You know, I think by Kehoe, you saw a lot of those signs. And let's be honest, most everybody who's a member of the soybean, the corn, they're Farm Bureau members too. I think that the signs you saw out in outstate Missouri, those were ag folks, not only giving the locations, but they sometimes putting them up.
Putting them up, that's absolutely right. You know, I can't tell you, Scott and John, like how much excitement, so much energy from our people, the calls that were made, the organizing that was done, the number of events. You know, when you think about just how many stops that Mike made all across the state.
Oh, man.
His team recognized that we had Farm Bureau members at every stop.
I feel so sorry for whoever buys that bus. I mean, it is ragged out. Missouri, listen to me. If you see an ad to buy the Mike Kehoe bus, don't buy it, unless it's for parts. And even then, I probably wouldn't buy it for that. That bus is worn out. So tell me, how do you feel? Results coming in. Big turnout in Southwest Missouri, not so much in St. Louis. How's that bode for Mike Kehoe?
You know, I don't know. You guys are more experts at this than I am. What I'll tell you is, again, what I have felt all along, and that's energy, excitement, momentum among our folks. Again, you've been around Farm Bureau for years. You know that when we get behind a candidate, you see that full force from a grassroots standpoint. And we never talk negative about anybody else. It's always what we support about a candidate, right? And I feel good, regardless of the outcome tonight. I feel good about the engagement of our members over the last few months, the energy, the excitement that's been there, and I can tell you I'm just proud of their work.
They were a force in general elections for a long time.
Yeah.
And wherever you were, now they're a force in primaries. John?
Yeah, so Garen, you've seen a whole lot of nasty primaries in your time over the years, and we've seen a little bit of nastiness in this governor's race.
Yep.
You might have, although most folks in Missouri Farm Bureau that are members might have supported Mike Kehoe, you probably have some folks down in the Springfield area who grew up respecting and revering a John Ashcroft.
Absolutely.
You might have some folks in St. Charles County who have worked with Bill Eigel in the past. After what was a pretty vicious primary, how do you go back to your members the day after the primary, regardless of the outcome, and unify them?
Well, I mean, that's Farm Bureau. That's what we've always done. I mean, whoever is elected, our members respect that and expect that from my position as president on down through our talented team, that we work with whoever's there. We work to build bridges. We work to figure out ways to advance the policy goals of our members to ultimately, Scott, we've talked about this, to bring the kids home. We have a big picture vision for rural Missouri and being able to bring the kids home. And ultimately, we're going to get behind and work with those who support our members and support agriculture in rural Missouri.
Okay, bring me down. Give me the statewide folks you got involved and endorsed.
Okay, so besides governor, we got involved in lieutenant governor. Our members saw one of their own, Lincoln Hunt, step up in a big way. Attorney General Andrew Bailey, from day one, since he's been there, he's went to work on waters of the U.S. and federal overreach at every turn. So they engaged in
Oh, boy,
those
that
three.
knows how to haul hay. I mean,
Yes.
it's funny, you know, I was at the state fair once and I saw a city slicker, very nice person trying to help out. They grabbed it by the one string and I'm like, you can't grab a hay bale by one. You ain't from around here, are you?
No.
Andrew Bailey knows how to grab a hay bale with both strings. I think he might be one in the future that you're pretty proud that you got behind now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm truly,
Will Sharp's a good guy.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
felt like they just never gave Missourians a reason to fire a war hero.
That's a good point.
And I'm sure they had some arguments, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, Will's qualified to probably be on the Supreme Court if you know the truth about it. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think they ever gave Missourians a good, lock-solid reason to fire a war hero.
No. Here's how I look at it, though, Scott. When I look at the national landscape, I am blessed in the position that I'm in to be able to work with colleagues all across the country. Bar none, when I look at the caliber of leadership, the candidates that we have to choose from, I think it speaks volumes about Missouri and how we grow leaders here. You know, you think about it, when I take a step back, the Farm Bureau movement started in Missouri and led to the formation of the American Farm Bureau in 1919, 4 years after Missourians stepped up, okay? National FFA, the largest youth organization dedicated to agriculture, also founded in Missouri. I think from it's who we are as Missourians, we breed and ultimately raise leaders. And regardless of the outcome of today, like I feel truly blessed that the choice that we have had this election cycle going into November.
You know, when you really come down to the long and the short of it, you're going to see some folks that the statewide ticket's going to happen, right? But the state Senate is a major place where, you know, frankly, rural senators have gotten rolled by urban Republican senators. And when you look to the future, you've got some folks that could be champions coming in. I mean, Curtis Gregory's on the ballot tonight. Jamie Berger's on the ballot tonight. Those are folks that I think finally might be like, well, come here, city fella. You know what? We're not going to do your goofy social issue bill until you do our bill, which I think is probably the thing, you know?
We've had this conversation a lot. And ultimately, the causes that we are trying to advance are good for all Missourians.
Yeah.
And we've got to get back to a truly functioning body and get stuff done.
Well, Garrett Hawkins, I very much appreciate the time. We hope that maybe we can get you on Zoom later tonight. If you went the hat trick and got all three, and you elect a few of these rural champions, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a good night at Farm Bureau, right?
It will be a heck of a good night and a long day tomorrow. But that's a good thing.
It'd be a better day to be a lose, though. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Garrett Hawkins, thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
it.
We're going to be right back. We're going to bring you. We're going to go from Garrett Hawkins to the Prince of Phelps County. Jack Hardetti joins us after this.
Progress wipes out jobs and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward.
Welcome back to Election Night in Missouri. It is Christmas morning here for Missouri Politicos. Welcome back. Joined by John Combest. John Combest, how many years have you done johncombest.com?
We're going on 23 now.
I have this great story that we heard tonight at dinner. First time Stephanie Bell met you, she's like, oh my God, that's the John Combest. I love it.
And then she was thoroughly disappointed, which I made a career of.
Well, I can't fault you there. Early results coming in. Mike Kehoe, 37%. Jay Ashcroft, 27%. Bill Eichel, 29%. That's about 100 of the 3,500 precincts that are going to be coming in throughout the night. The early returns, Curtis Gregory doing pretty well in Lafayette County.
Yep.
Doing pretty well leading into Clay. Doug Ritchie doing well in Clay. Kind of what you'd expected. That race has been an absolute heavyweight fight the whole time. But it looks like if you had to look at the early returns, Curtis Gregory's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. And then also, generally St. Charles County tends to report pretty early. And that's the case where we'll see Phil Cristofanelli versus Adam Schnelting. That's going to be another barn burner. I think that one's going to be even closer than Curtis Gregory and Doug Ritchie.
You think so?
I think so.
It has been a nasty, nasty fight. Speaking of nasty fights, we have a veteran of several nasty fights joining us right now. The Prince of Phelps County, Jack Cardetti. Thank you for joining us for election night here in Missouri.
Always good to be on, but with John Combest as well. What a treat here.
Yeah. Good to
Creme
see
de
you,
la
Cap.
creme. We do it right here on election night. Jack, what are you seeing here? We see a few of the early returns, probably not enough to make much hay of. But early on, I mean, if you're Kehoe, you got to like what you're seeing so far.
Yeah, you do. You really like some of the trends, and the fact that some of the votes that are coming in are from different areas of the state, right? He looks like he may be able to put a coalition together really early. Democrats are really watching 4 races tonight, Scott, as you know.
Yep.
They're really watching the first congressional race over there. So Wesley Bell against Congresswoman Bush. They're watching, obviously, Crystal Quaid against Hammer there. And then there's 2 state Senate races that are pretty close. So over in Kansas City side, you have Representative Lewis against Pat Contreras, and then over in the St. Louis County, you have Senator Mosley and then Representative Nixon Clark. So those are all the 4 big races I know a lot of Missouri Democrats will be watching tonight. And right now, a lot of those are inconclusive, except to say that Wesley Bell is really doing well in early returns. This is a scenario.
Yeah, is he going to win that race?
Yeah, this is a scenario where Bell has to do really well in the county, but Bush needs to do well in the city. And so far, early returns, Bell's doing well in both.
It just felt like, and it wasn't. I mean, the race was funded on Israel Gaza, right? But the race came down to a lot of union folks and folks saying, "Well, you complain a lot, you don't actually get a lot done." Is the Democrat Party waking up from this fog of whining before the Republican Party?
Well, it is interesting. I think tonight's results will tell us something. I think if Cori Bush had to take one vote back, she would not have voted against the President Biden, Vice President Harris's infrastructure bill really early in her term. And I think that's one of the reasons when you talk about labor households being excited about this race, I think it really goes back to that vote. So I think that was an error on her step early on, and she may be paying the price tonight.
Yeah, Jack, I want to ask you about the governor's race. We know political insiders and the kind of folks that watch these type of shows have known Crystal Quaid. They know what she has done to build the Democratic caucus in the House. They know about a lot of her victories. And I think a lot of us just assumed that she would have a pretty easy coronation in the governor's race. But I got to tell you, if you go on YouTube, anytime in the last month, you're greeted with a Mike Hamra ad. You turn on the television, you're greeted with a Mike Hamra ad. Was Mike Hamra's over-the-top spending enough to make it close, or maybe even give him a chance?
I think that's one of the huge questions, John, of tonight, right? Is does Quaid get, all of these Democrats in state houses and county courthouses out there all across the state know that she's been a great leader for the Democratic caucus. Know she's put in the time, the effort, and the work or whatever. But that's not exactly how modern day campaigns are decided these days. A lot of it's how many impressions can you get? How much voter contact can you fill in those last 2 months? And obviously Hammer, like you said, has done a good job, not just putting up a bunch of money, raising money and putting it up on TV, but like you said, when you look at streaming and digital and all that stuff, he kind of has that program together. But
Jack,
the fact is, early
you.
results is Quaid is hanging tough.
I got to ask you, I've heard many people sit around this table and say the whole society is rigged for white, heterosexual Christian males with rich daddies. Mike Hammer voted in Chicago in 2020. Now, I didn't take my boots off to give you a good count, but I think that's sooner than the 10 years you have to live in Missouri in order to be governor. It's almost like the Democratic Party rigged this election and rigged this filing for a white, heterosexual Christian male with a rich daddy.
Scott, I love that. So it is something that has clearly been an issue in this race. And I think just the unfamiliarity that a lot of Democratic voters have with Hamra that's clearly the bar he has to get over. If you're from Springfield, you know the name Hammer. The problem is that's Crystal Quaid's base as well. That's why this is sort of an odd race when it comes to statewide Democratic politics.
Is this the year of the woman, or is it about time for straight, white, Christian males with rich daddies to get their day in the Democratic Party?
Well, I tell you what, that Senate race over in Kansas City, Representative Patty Lewis against
Yeah.
Pat Contreras, might really give us a good look into that, right? I'm just going to be honest. If I'm running one-on-one in a Democratic primary, especially this year, especially after Roe v. Wade, right, I want to have a female candidate there. And so I
Jack, can
think
you hang on for just 1 second? We have a call to make. Can you hang on for just 1 second? We have a call to make in one of the early races, one of the big ones. Jack, if you'll hold on.
perfect.
Kelton,
Yeah, that sounds great.
I think we're ready to make the first call of the night. Our decision desk and the folks crunching the numbers can now report back that Andrew Bailey will win the Attorney General's race. He started off with millions and millions and millions of dollars spent against him. He weathered the storm, and now the Missouri Times could project that Andrew Bailey will be elected to the job he was appointed to by Governor Parson as the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri. John, big win for Bailey.
Yeah.
I mean, when I thought this race would be a $6 to $8 to $10 million race, it was like a $16 million race. And Bailey fought it off and has won, before 9 o'clock.
Very early. And I also think, too, there are a couple factors that played a role here, but I think most of us expected Will Scharf to get the sole endorsement of Donald Trump. And when we waited and we waited and it didn't happen, it didn't look good for Will Scharf. We should also point out that Andrew Bailey in no major poll was ever trailing Will
Never.
Scharf. At times, Will was within the margin of error, but Will never was able to close that gap.
Let's bring Jack back in here. Jack, are you surprised that I think anybody's surprised Bailey won, but have this race wrapped up and a concession call made by 9 o'clock? That's impressive.
I think Andrew Bailey has really gotten a lot of attention after tonight. The fact that he's not really a true incumbent. He's never run for office before, never been elected, so he didn't have a lot of that natural advantages and have millions and millions spent against him. But to still be able to come through. I mean, John, do you remember kind of a first-time statewide Republican candidate really being able to take that onslaught of negative ads and really overperform?
Yeah, I don't think so. Not in my lifetime. Not in our lifetime, Jack.
So, I mean, to me, it just goes, I think it laid out, Andrew has a great backstory. Being a legitimate Missouri war hero and a veteran is a great backstory. And I think at the end of the day, there was a problem that they never gave the people of this state a reason to fire a war hero, right? I never saw the reason why you should fire Andrew Bailey.
Yeah, the one reason would have been if Trump had said, "That's not my guy. My guy's Will Scharf."
Yep.
Right. And when that didn't happen, Will Scharf may have lost the race that very day.
But with the swing here, I mean, I think that Bailey's on pace to win a pretty comfortable win. The Trump endorsement matters, no question about it. A Trump endorsement, I don't know about. I'm going to ask you a question about the lieutenant governor's race in a moment. I don't know that a Trump endorsement would have made up that gulf. This is being a 20-point race. Does Trump
Depends
at
how
20 points?
early that is. It depends
Yeah.
how he does the race. If you look at when he played in the Onder and Schaefer race there, he made that call early. And not only did he promote Onder, he obviously went negative against Schaefer. And so I think in a situation like that really would have helped Scharf. The fact that didn't happen, the fact that Bailey has kind of made all the right steps politically. I mean, think about this. Less than 2 years ago, he's not even in this job. He had to get the office up and running and run a sort of a campaign against millions of dollars spent against him. Pretty impressive political victory.
And we know that the blueprint of Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt and Andrew Bailey, I think, has followed that blueprint to a T.
Sue
Yeah,
everyone.
I mean, one of the things that was really amazing when Jay Nixon won back in 2008, before he ever entered that race, his name ID 80%. Why was it 80% name ID? The Attorney General's office in Missouri is a huge, huge platform. Second best job after the governor.
So what would Jack Cardetti have done with an endorsement at 5:30 the night before the election in a lieutenant governor's race? What would you have done with that information? In today's time, I know you have some texting and social media, whatever. If you're in the Holly Raider or David Watsinger war room and you get this great piece of news, but you get it at 5:30 the night before the election, what do you do with it? Did we freeze Jack? We might have frozen Jack
That
up.
question might have frozen Jack.
That we finally stumped the Prince of Phelps County. I can't believe it. I can't believe he wasn't stumped by the one about the white heterosexual Christian male thing.
I know.
It was the what do you do with a Trump endorsement the day before.
And I wanted to get him on record saying, how would you apply that question to Carla May versus her Democratic opponent in the U.S. Senate race, if it's the year of the woman?
That's a great question. As we roll in on election night, let's look at the updated totals here. When I push my secretary, it's kind of interesting. I mean, the Secretary of State's in Springfield, and you're running for governor. Do you watch the results, or do you kind of help manage the election here? And now Carnetti came back. Welcome back in, Jack.
Thanks. Sorry
Did I
about that.
finally ask you a question that froze you?
I didn't
People
even
have
hear
been
what
wanting
you were
to
asking.
do that
Were you
for
going on to
decades,
the
Jack.
governor's race here?
Yes. What would you have done with that endorsement?
You know, the problem in that lieutenant governor's race, the endorsement stuff comes in so late, and he endorses multiple people, right? And so that's sort of the least helpful of an
And
endorsement.
that sucks, right? I mean, it just sucks.
Yeah, I was surprised. If you look at President Trump's political operation, governor's race, they don't pick a candidate. Lieutenant governor's race, they don't pick a candidate. Attorney general's race, they don't pick a candidate. I mean, that's not what Donald Trump would have done 2 or 4 years ago.
No, that to me, like, I don't think it matters in Missouri. Donald Trump's going to win Missouri. He's going to win it by a ton. But I do think it's like, I like Trump because he's decisive. He can make a damn decision.
Yep. He's
But-
not a politician, right? I mean, his
But a
whole
politician
brain-
would endorse like everybody and just kiss their ass. I
You know
don't.
what a politician does? A politician picks all 3 governors candidates and says
Yeah.
I'm for all, right? And that's Donald Trump's brand for day one is this thing's broken and I'm a disruptor and I'm not a politician. And yet he kind of reverted back to being a politician this
I
cycle.
totally agree. It's one of the least favorite things I've ever. I'm a guy early on. You know, we would do radio shows together. I got Trump. I understood why people love Trump, but I don't understand the endorsing everyone.
Yeah.
That just kind of sucks.
Yeah. And Jack, when you look at the map on primary night and you look at some of these legislative districts, we talked about how Crystal Quaid kind of led Democrats out of the wilderness into a better spot in the Missouri House. What are some of the areas or geographies where you're looking at where Democrats need to pick good candidates tonight on primary night to position themselves for the general?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at where Democrats have done well, basically ever since Trump got into office. So the 18 cycle, the 20 cycle, the 22 cycle, you know, it's in the suburbs. So if I'm looking at Clay County, right? If I'm looking at even Cass County over in the KC suburbs, those are interesting to me. Obviously, you go over to the eastern side of the state and you want to know what is happening down in Jeffco, what's happening in Jefferson County, what's happening in St. Louis City, St. Louis County. And then obviously St. Charles. But the one place where there's more and more Democrats, obviously, is the city of Springfield. I mean, that has really grown, and Greene County even to an extent. Greene County and St. Charles County, guess what? All of those voted for Medicaid expansion. All of them voted for marijuana legalization. All of them voted against right to work or whatever. And so there's a lot
Almost
of
like
Democrats
Jack knew that by heart somehow. I can't. Jack Carnetti, the Prince of St. James, would you be willing to kind of stay sober and around your phone a little bit tonight? We get your take on as more of these results come in?
Absolutely.
Or not sober. I'm not judgmental.
I thought you may have made the Attorney General call a little early, but that call looked spot on. It really an impressive victory.
Jack, have
Did
I
not
ever
put
called
that
a race
movement
wrong?
over.
Have I ever called a race wrong? Has that ever
I
happened?
believe so.
No, damn right it has. All right, Jack, we'll catch you later tonight. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you.
Now we are going to move to one of my favorite people in all of politics. I tell you, if I had a political crush, it would be Ann Wagner, who joins us right now. Congresswoman, I think you're on the way to another victory, right?
Well, according to the decision desk, I can whoever or whatever they are, they have called it for Lucas Coons. So to my friend, Mr. Cardetti, they've called it for Ann Wagner, and they've called it for Andrew Bailey, probably in the double digits.
Andrew Bailey is someone I've sat in your kitchen with before. The race, I honestly thought this would be more of a barn burner. If you'd have told me back in your kitchen, whenever we were in there, that Andrew Bailey would win this race and would have $16 million sent from Washington to take him out, and he would have won the race before 9 o'clock, I would have said there's no way.
I know. Well, I've got more late breaking news here. Kind of interesting. In terms of turnout, I can tell you that St. Louis County is at 30% turnout. But are you ready for this?
Yes.
St. Charles County is at way underperforming at only a 21% turnout, way down from even 2022, Scott. So it's pretty amazing. I don't know what all that says, but I say it doesn't bode well for some folks that are big St. Charles folks. I've got a big chunk of St. Charles. I'm hoping we're going to have a good turnout from the small portion of St. Charles that is in CD2. We've got strong turnout in the second congressional district, I can tell you. But
well, Kelton, let's go to the board because we've already called this race for Ann Wagner in the second congressional.
Look at that hair. I need a new headshot, man. You know.
I like it. I don't think you should change that. That's not real. John Combest, you know that part of that territory very well. Why do you think turnout will be down in St. Charles?
You know, I'm not quite certain. I would have actually expected due to having Phil Cristofanelli and having Adam Schnelting and a longtime fan favorite, Rich Krismer Sr., on the ballot, I thought that would have really driven more traffic to the polls in St. Charles. I guess my question for Ann, when you look to the general election now and you look at a potential Democratic opponent, what would be the hardest part of opposition research? Sitting through an entire episode of Donnybrook or reading an entire column from a 1990s Riverfront Times?
There's just so much there, John, that you couldn't possibly weed through it. But I think we've got my soon to be, I don't know, it hasn't been called. Decision Desk hasn't called it for the Democrat in CD2. So we'll see who ends up victorious there. But I feel pretty confident in the voters in the second district. I got to tell you what, this is going to be, I think, a really good night. Let me give you some quick numbers here too, for Wesley Bell. These are the St. Louis County absentees. Bell 67%, Cori Bush 30%, and even more extraordinary, I just looked up the St. Louis City absentees. So this is the core city, and Wesley Bell is at 57% to Cori Bush's 40%.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Congresswoman, it just feels like Cori Bush, I mean, I think she's probably a well-meaning person, but her views are a little embarrassing to the people of St. Louis and the Missouri. I mean, it's one of those things you complain all day, you don't actually accomplish anything.
That's right. And, you know, I long for the days when the delegation, Democrats and Republicans, before when we had Lacey Clay, and I hope again when I believe are going to have Wesley Bell and Emmanuel Cleaver in Kansas City. I mean, we have our ideological differences, Scott, but when it came to things for Missouri, for the community, I don't care whether it was a zoo grant or F-18s at Boeing. We all signed on to each other's things, and we got along as a delegation and as a group very, very well. So I thought those are pretty amazing numbers. The Kehoe numbers are amazing. His St. Louis County absentee numbers, again, these are just absentees in St. Louis County. Kehoe 39%, Ashcroft 31%, Eagle 25%. And I know Cardetti was talking about, you know, Clay and Platte and places like this. So right now you've got Kehoe leading in a very strong position in Clay, in Platte, and in Boone County. Really strong. So
Congresswoman, could you hold 1 second? We have a call to make. Down in Southwest Missouri, we're going to now say that Mike Moon will be reelected and reelected handily. He'll beat Susan Harrelson. A race that could have been competitive but didn't actually turn out. Congresswoman, tell us about the national mood. Today there was a big announcement that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, would be the running mate. I actually thought it was a pretty good pick. He seems like a guy that can land a punch.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I think it's probably the most liberal, socialist-leaning ticket that America has ever seen. I mean, here's the thing about Walz. You know, he looks like your granddad. He looks like your coach, your teacher. Looks like everyday, folksy America. But he can't pull off folksy like you can, Scott Faughn. He just absolutely cannot pull it off. He just moves to his socialist side. I mean, listen to this. This is what he has said in the past. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? This is a guy who signed.
I don't think the gulags in the Soviet Union were neighborly.
Well, that's not what I call it either. But here's, in terms of his policy and as governor, he has signed into law literally laws letting illegals get driver's license, free college, and are you ready for this? Full access to what's called Minnesota Care, which is their health care. So, I mean, I remember him. He first got on my radar, I'd say back in 2020 when he basically let Minneapolis burn during the riots. I think I think he's going to be somebody that may look the picture, but his actions speak differently, and is certainly what he has signed into law as governor is outrageous. So I think it fits perfectly with Kamala Harris, and I was surprised that she didn't go for Pennsylvania. Minnesota's always tough for Republicans, but I would have thought they would have needed Minnesota, but I don't think she could make herself do that, and found someone who lined up with her ideologically perfectly on that far left bent.
Congresswoman Ann Wagner, thank you so much for making time for us here on Election Night. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you. Always good to be with you.
Have a good evening. We are ready to go back to our decision desk, to the big board here. Vivic Malik is going to be elected as state treasurer. Boy, that Parson guy, John. I mean, John,
2 for 2 so far.
Let's just count it out here, folks. He plucked Eric Schmidt, who won election as Attorney General. He won the election of the U.S. Senate. He picked Andrew Bailey, who won Attorney General. He picked Scott Fitzpatrick, who became auditor. I mean, you go, Mike Kehoe won a term, and he could be on the way to being governor of the state of Missouri. Vivic Malik he picks now. What a night for Vivic Malik. What a night for Governor Mike Parson. John, it is an impressive run of picks that have been backed up by the people of Missouri.
What I thought was most impressive about what the governor has said is his philosophy on endorsements is simple. If someone is there for me when I needed them, I'll be for them, or I'll be there when they need me. And that's what he said about his endorsements. Now I will say, excuse me, conventional wisdom was wrong in regards to one thing about Vivic Malik. A lot of people sat up here at this desk, Scott, on your show every week, and talked about the fact that Republican primary voters were simply too racist to vote for a man that had a funny name, and that they would that everyone would flock to a Cody Smith. Now, there was probably some of that, but I think that Republican primary voters prove that they don't just judge a candidate by their race.
I'll be honest with you. Every radio show I did, every television show I did, I said, Vivic Malik is probably going to run a race where they're going to hit him on his religion, the way he looks. Vivic Malik put his picture on every single. I had so many pieces of mail with Vivic's picture on it.
And he talked about immigration. He led
straight
with
on.
that. Yeah.
I think part of this, it shouldn't be lost. There was attacks in the last 4 or 5 days. There was some pretty dirty attacks came against him. He withstood them. He never ducked his Indian heritage.
Yep.
He talked about immigration square on. I think there's a thing about Vivic Malik. I think he's a truly good guy. I think there's a goodness that kind of permeates out of Vivic Malik. He's a happy warrior. And I think that shone through, and I think it was a big part of the reason. To be honest, no one ever really got close to him.
Yeah, that's true. And I think also one of the great things that Vivic will bring into the party, has brought to this point, and will continue to bring, not just a larger Indian vote, but there's a colloquialism of when you go to an event and you see people who you don't know, that means that most people actually wrote a check to be at the event. So Vivic has proven that he can bring new donors into the Republican Party. He can bring new folks in. This party, as a Republican, needs new blood. And frankly, Scott, we need folks that don't exactly look like you and me. I think Vivic has done a great job of that since his appointment.
I think we got a couple of calls coming in here. If we can go to our big board here at the Missouri Times, election night of Missouri, we're going to look at the big board and we're going to make a call. Rick Bratton is going to win that state Senate seat.'s going to be reelected. John, I think this race was very simple. Rick Bratton was able to, he had a record of success. We'll switch over here and talk to John. But he had a record in the state Senate that I think some folks liked.
Yep.
Then he also broke down. He raised some money. The trial attorneys were very supportive of him.
Yep.
But he had a legislative accomplishment. I thought that this new district, he'd never won in Johnson County. I thought Houts and Hafner, if Hafner picked his pocket in Cass, then in Johnson, maybe Houts could come in and run up a margin. The landfill bill.
Yeah.
He had a legitimate accomplishment on that landfill bill, and I think it totally showed.
Yeah, I think that was a big turning point for Bratton. And also, one of the subtexts that we should pay attention to as we go through these Senate races, and especially these statewide races, is what's the performance of the Freedom Caucus in these elections? Now, we see Rick Bratton winning re-election here. And one of the curious things that we've seen in these early results in governor that will affect, I think, the Secretary of State's race is, I think we've seen a particularly strong performance from Bill Eigel, at least stronger than most folks expected. So if Bill Eigel comes in right now, let's say he's at 25% of the vote, is that enough to carry Denny Hoskins to a win in the Secretary of State's race?
I think we're going to be joined now down at Ashcroft headquarters. We're going to bring in Caleb Arthur. Caleb, thanks for making the time. How is the mood down at the Ashcroft victory party?
Yeah, there's still a lot of hope. You know, I was just trying to look at how much they made Jackson County so far a while ago. I think we're still at 12% there. So, can you hear me okay?
You speak up as loud as you can. I love the fact that you're at the party, but the wind's whipping a little bit there. If I had to guess without knowing, are you at the Vandevort rooftop?
No, we're Vandevort's right here. We're at the Moxie.
Moxie.
Just by Vandevort, yeah.
Swing and a miss. Well, let me walk through these early numbers here. 400, so about a little over 10% of the precincts in. Kehoe 41, Eigel 29, Ashcroft 24. You probably want a little more out of Greene County, right?
Yeah, definitely want more out of Greene County for sure.
So only about 10% of the precincts from the 7th Congressional are in. So if you're Jay Ashcroft, you're hoping that you make this margin up down in Southwest Missouri. But right now, the early returns show a good night for Mike Kehoe.
Yeah, he definitely showed strong. We knew that there was going to be a ton of money put into the race for him, so you knew it was going to be an uphill battle.
Sure. Yeah, but another local guy, Lincoln Huff, doing well, holding his own. Up about 4 points right now over Wassinger, up with about a little over maybe 15% in. Huff, your other Springfield guy's holding his own.
Yeah, no, super proud of Lincoln. We knew he'd be a force to reckon with the Lieutenant Governor's race. So, yeah, we definitely want to bring home as much bacon as we can to Southwest Missouri.
Andrew Bailey, if I'd have told you there'd be $16 million spent against Andrew Bailey and he would win this race and have a concession call by 20-9, you'd have said, Vaughn, you're out of your mind. You've been drinking too much.
Yeah, I think that we've asked ourselves that about you for a few years. No, I'm joking. But no, we, like you said that day, you came and interviewed me. How do you fire Andrew Bailey as a veteran and a successful
Caleb Arthur, could you stick by your phone and maybe call us back after a while?
Yeah, I can go inside here.
All right, we'll holler at you a little later in the night. Thank you so much. That is Caleb Arthur from down at Ashcroft headquarters. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. We're going to bring you some more winners, and we're going to bring you some more guests from around the state. I think we have Mark Ellinger we're going to be able to bring in. It's going to be a fun time. You'd always learn something with Mark Ellinger. Thank you so much. Election night in Missouri. We'll be right back after this.
.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882, turning Missouri into a
Welcome back to Election Night in Missouri, joined by John Combest. Thank you so much for making the time, sir.
It's great to be here with you, Scott.
What a fun election night so far. Just to recap, Andrew Bailey will remain the Attorney General of the state of Missouri, and Vivic Malik will remain the state treasurer. Not huge surprises, right. But I mean, that old Parson boy can pick him, can't he?
And to be able to call those races this early in the night, I think is surprising, Scott.
Very close race down in Missouri's Boot Heel, down the 27th. You have Berger, 43.4. Turner, 36.9, doing very well, and Chris Dinkins at 19.8. But we have an update on the big dance, on the big race of the evening. If you'll come to our update screen, Mike Kehoe doing exceptionally well, 41%. Bill Eigel, I always told you. Who told you? Eigel's being a strong candidate. Ashcroft at 24%. If I had to guess, Ashcroft is hoping that 7th District turns some of this around. But as it stands right now, very good night for Mike Kehoe. John Combest, I know we're only about 20% of the way through the night, but if I'm Mike Kehoe, I've got to be a little surprised how well I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that this, again, goes to show that we've talked before on the show, Scott, about how Bill Eigel supporters, even when there's low turnout in one particular part of the county, if you're an Eigel person, you're showing up to the polls on election night.
I think you literally will go whatever it takes.
Yep.
And I think that 30% is probably indicative of the low turnout. But Eigel wanted low turnout, but not in St. Charles, right?
Yeah, that's surprising as well, too. But to your point, Scott, going into this, even though we haven't seen a majority of votes in, if you're Kehoe, you have to feel great about your margin right now.
I think if you'd have thought it was going to go this way, you'd just be greedy, I think, at this point. Let me just run down the races here. In the 3rd district, Henderson's doing well, very well. I think we're about to make a call in the 3rd district. In the 7th district, not a lot in. I told you, the Kansas City, there's 2 election authorities in Jackson County. The Jackson County one's relatively fast. The city of Kansas City one, it's just going to be a while, folks. I think the closer people live together, the slower they count. It's been that way my whole life. Nicola and McMullen's close. St. Louis County, Gregory's got a lead over Harder, but Harder's doing very well. The 21st, Curtis Gregory doing well, but not enough to call. Not a lot in on the 23rd district. The 27th, I gave you the update. Mike Moon has won the 29th handily over Susan Harrelson. Rick Bratton has won the 31st. In the 33rd, not a lot in yet. We do have a couple other calls. House District 54, Brandon Phelps. That was a huge fight between your angry Republicans and your accomplishment Republicans. They squared off. Phelps won.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to see a lot of, Scott, you've talked at length on the show of whether the anger is enough to propel people.
Yep.
And, I think there are still a lot of Republicans out there that are very angry.
Then we have down the boot hill. This is a guy whose name you're going to hear again. Judge Dolan. David Dolan, a former judge from down there, wanted to get back involved. Look, I'm going to tell you, judges are either stellar legislators or dumpster fires. There is no in between with a judge that runs for the legislature. I actually think Dolan is going to be an absolute superstar once he gets to Jefferson City.
Yeah, I don't know much about him.
Down at Sykeston, he used to be part of I think there was a whole catfish cooking crew.
Nice.
They cook Mississippi River catfish. Mwah. David Dolan, maybe he'll cook some at the Capitol. If he does, I need extra pickles on mine. I think David Dolan is a guy you're going to see come a lot from going forward. In the Secretary of State's race, let's just check the ticker. Before we do that, let's go to our decision screen here. The Missouri Times can now project that Mike Henderson will be elected to the Missouri State Senate from the Lead Belt. Jefferson County, St. Francis County, St. Genevieve, Washington, and Crawford counties have elected Mike Henderson to serve in the state Senate. I tell you, I think this race will be picked apart, not necessarily for the money that was spent in this race. It'll be picked apart for the money that wasn't. Mike Henderson was able to keep a lot of outside groups from spending money against him. I think that surprised some folks, and he was able to bring home a pretty convincing win.
What were the groups that you expected to get involved?
Mike Henderson was a former superintendent. I think there's some folks that believe on the education reform side he will be a tougher nut to crack than others. That they did spend against Jamie Berger, who became an advocate. They spent against Curtis Gregory. Didn't spend for Cindy Courtway against Mike Henderson. I think it's because Mike Henderson never looked like he was even vulnerable in a poll. He ran this race as the front runner from the beginning of filing till tonight, and he won.
And he was running against an opponent that had good name recognition, and in fact, 2 famous last names in that area, right?
Very famous, and congratulations to Mike Henderson. A great guy, will be a very good addition. Big shoes to fill in Elaine Gannon. She has been an absolute amazing public servant from a family of public servants. Her husband is the Jefferson County executive. Mike Henderson, though, will be a very admirable successor to Elaine Gannon.
Yeah, and when you think of Gannon, you think of someone from that old model of the Republican Party who went to Jeff City to work with other people.
My buddy Connor Kerrigan chiming in. He's ready to call this race for Kehoe. I think we're getting close, folks. I think stay by your televisions and keep streaming, because we are coming to a conclusion. Let's check in on the Secretary of State's race. You talk about an amazing thing. So we're getting up closer to 20% of the precincts coming in. All over the state has been pretty well represented. Right now, you're seeing Denny Hoskins at 24%, Shane Scholler at 18%. You see Dean Plocker 13%, Mike Carter 14%, Mary Elizabeth Colvin 11%, Valentina Gomez only 7%. That's disappointing if you like fun news. But are you surprised to see Denny Hoskins leading?
Yeah, I'm not when you look at how well Bill Eigel has done throughout the state. And you also think about the fact that Denny has a long list of accomplishments as a legislator. You see somebody that has run a vigorous campaign over the last year. At first, we weren't sure what office Denny would be running for, and then he chose Secretary of State. And that strong Eigel presence. Denny is a man, and he can stand on his own 2 feet. I also think that Bill Eigel's strength has helped Denny Hoskins quite a bit.
Speaking of, I think we're probably can start to call Congressional District 2. I believe we'll see Ray Hartman versus Ann Wagner. I don't think Ann Wagner has a real electoral problem, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think this would be a crowning achievement of Ray Hartman's career to lose to Ann Wagner. And I think that if, on the chance that at some point Ann decides to retire in the future, I can see Ray Hartman saying, I'm the man that made it so miserable for Ann Wagner that she served 1 or 2 more terms and just left.
The truth is, let's go to our big board here. I am personally very happy to say that Ray Hartman, the St. Louis legend, will be running for Congress against Ann Wagner this fall. It will be a fun race. You have 2 people with personalities. You have 2 people that know their stuff. Obviously, Congresswoman Wagner starts off as a significant favorite, but Ray Hartman will be her opponent. It is somebody that is well known throughout the district, and he did romp to a pretty huge victory. John, Ray Hartman, whatever he does is going to be fun.
Yeah, and I mean, he's one of those people, Scott, and you and I know folks that we call heat magnets, and that they get a lot of anger, and they draw a lot of attention from folks. You know what's interesting about Ray Hartman winning this Democratic primary is when you look at Senate District 15, the Democrats have actually recruited a candidate in Democrat Joe Peerless who can self-fund and who Democrats expect to run a vigorous campaign in the 15th senatorial district.
Let me give you a race I bet you're going to be surprised by.
What's that?
Without St. Charles, I believe St. Charles is not in, but without St. Charles reporting, 97 of 312 precincts in the 3rd Congressional District. Take a wild guess as to what Bob Onder and Kurt Schaefer are at.
I would have guessed, without that question, I would have guessed Bob Onder leading by 20%.
Without St. Charles County in, and 97 precincts out of 312 in, Kurt Schaefer 48, Bob Onder 35.
Wow, that's a surprise.
That would be a legitimate upset.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kurt Schaefer, my take on that race was this: Kurt Schaefer was running an excellent campaign. I actually think Kurt Schaefer was on margin to maybe edge out of victory. Frankly, running a better campaign than I thought Kurt would run. Mm-hmm. Bob Onder running a good campaign. I mean, Bob's a good campaigner. There was a lot of support for Justin Hicks, which I thought some of that was maybe some folks in St. Charles. They wanted to vote for the St. Charles County, but maybe they had a misgiving. They just couldn't quite get to Onder. So Justin Hicks, veteran, nice guy, drops out of the race. I thought, then Trump endorsed Schaefer. I'm like, well, Kurt's
Trump
a dogged
endorsed
fighter. Trump endorsed Onder. Kurt's a dogged fighter, but come on now. You're not going to be able to make that up. Now, I still think, but again, you have to say the most populous precincts in this congressional district are going to be in St. Charles County. Kurt Schaefer's put up a hell of a fight, though.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's especially a bold fight for someone who talks about going to Washington and working. So he's not going to draw the support of members of the Freedom Caucus in Washington, D.C. But I also think that Schaefer had an uphill battle in terms of Bob Onder had a lot of opposition research of Kurt talking about issues that Kurt probably didn't want to talk about in 2024.
Well, Kurt Schaefer did say, I am I'm a moderate.
Yeah.
He said it when he ran for state senate. It was replayed hundreds of times. I do think sometimes, and I've watched this, I think, people think politics is some sort of forlorn thing. No, the same sort of things that make that in our friend groups is true in politics. And I think sometimes maybe those folks that live on that Twitter a lot, you do get to thinking that, yes, this is a microcosm of what everybody, let's say High Street Pub, or Dave's in Taos, or Tubby's in St. Charles thinks. No, it's actually a microcosm of what people on Twitter think.
And let's not forget, Jonathan Radcliffe was on your show the other day, and Jonathan talked about the desire of folks in mid-Missouri to continue that legacy and having someone follow Blaine Luetkemeyer, being from mid-Missouri. And I think that's a primary issue for a lot of voters.
This race is a long way from being over, but a race that is over. We are now joined by State Senator-elect Mike Henderson. Can I call you Senator Henderson yet?
Well, I think I've got a general to go through, but I'm very excited about tonight and very happy with the results.
Something tells me you got to win now. Where are you at this evening?
I am at Hub's Pub. My children, I said I kind of wanted to stay at home and just see the results, but they put together a little
a victory party. That's when you're at a victory party. And I'm going to tell you, if I had a victory in St. Charles or St. Francis County, I'd go to Hub's Pub too.
So I'm just happy to be here celebrating with some of my friends. Very happy for the win, and I'm very excited.
Mike, I tell you, you led this race from filing all the way till tonight when you won the race. I think you kept a lot of groups out, but I think you kept them out because you always had a sizable lead in the race.
You know, all I know is we tried to run a very clean race on what I've done and work hard and try to get out and meet people. And apparently that worked very well, and I'm very happy with the results.
Now that you're going to the state Senate, what's your take? I mean, you have some folks that are angry. You have some folks that want to accomplish stuff. Where do you want to fall at in those little cliques inside the state Senate?
Pretty simple. All I want to do is have policy discussions and say, you know, we don't all have to agree, but if we can have the policy discussion, then we can get things done. And that's what I want to do. You know, we're sent there to try to get things done for the people of Missouri.
Give me something you want to get done in your time in the state Senate.
I do not have one particular thing. I think there's a lot of things. I'd like to see us keep lowering taxes, but to do that, we have to keep growing the economy. So there's a lot of things that we have to do to try to make that happen. And I'm going to keep working for those things.
Mike Henderson, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Scott.
I know he's got a general election, but Mike Henderson's going to come to the state Senate in January. I tell you, it could be it could be something in the air, and I talked about this before. I think there's something in the air here, and you don't see it on social media. You don't see it on Twitter for sure. Mike Kehoe went around this state personally meeting people, personally bringing them in, and I'm not sure that guys like Mike Henderson, a guy like a Curtis Gregory, isn't in the wake of what Mike Kehoe blazed a trail through this state.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, I think you asked Mike the most important question is, what kind of a senator do you want to be, and what faction do you want to join? Can you imagine being on the other end of Mike Henderson's phone, or at least listening in, and hearing the calls he's going to get tonight, and the factions that will be recruiting him, if they haven't already, come January?
I tell you what, here we go. Cape Girardeau, big one down there. I'm hearing from some folks that Denny Hoskins looks like he may pull the Secretary of State race out. We are now over 20% of the vote in. Denny Hoskins at 24%, Shane Schroeder at 17%, Dean Plocker at 13%, Mike Carter at 15%. And again, that's, I believe, let me check again here, that is not St. Charles. None of the 23rd Senate District is reported in this. I believe it's online some other places. None of that's reported in this. Interesting time. Let's look at the 1st Congressional District. You're seeing, there's 5 Republicans. That's just bizarre.
Yeah.
You talk about taking the L. I mean, that's one of the others. Corey Bush, Wesley Bell is up with seven precincts in, 63% to 33%. The state treasurer's race, Vivic Malik continues to romp. Andrew Bailey continues to run very strong. Let's talk about this lieutenant governor's race. Lincoln Huff, 33%. Wassinger, 29%. Rader, 20%. Tim Baker, a guy I actually really like, came in at 10%. Huff so far with a very small lead over Wassinger.
You know, one of the interesting things that you've talked about on the show, Scott, is the concept of David Wassinger spending a lot of money. And the phrase that you used, Scott, is David Wassinger renting these votes? Now, for folks who haven't heard you talk about that, when you talk about renting votes versus turning out your natural voters, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, I think people are voting with you based off one TV commercial.
Yep.
It's not as though they've seen you in their hometown. It's not as though they've seen a picture of you in front of their courthouse or at their restaurant meeting folks. It's not as though anybody at church said, oh, I went to a thing and he spoke there. It is simply, I saw you on television. And I think you can garner a lot of public support that way. There's no question. I think Josh Hawley won an AG's race pretty much based off that. But I think when you have a candidate who's actually been, you have seen a photograph on Facebook or wherever of him, if you're in Warsaw, Missouri, if you've been in county, if you've seen someone down at the dock, that everybody knows, then I think that matters. It begins to build some deepening things. It connects the television advertising to maybe something more real you could identify with on a more personal level. And I think when you're just running TV ads, I think your voters are easily plucked. Yeah. Now, Wassinger has done a great job getting all the way up there. And so I think he's done a great job getting in position. But I don't know that if you look right back at it, I think a lot of those votes were rented. Now, Trump support might really help in that, but I think if you look, Lincoln has maintained throughout the first. When 10% was in, he was up 4. When 20%, he's up 4. We'll see how that trend continues.
Yeah, and also too, this could, when you think about a victory from Lincoln Huff, if he is indeed headed that way. What does that say about a generic two-person endorsement from Donald Trump? It might say that it doesn't mean as much as we would have thought a year ago.
Looking around, Curtis Gregory continuing to do pretty well. Some of Clay County's out. The race is certainly not over, but doing well. Huff doing well. I think, let me just give you a real brief thing. We're going to bring in one of the brightest people, the most common sense people I know in Missouri politics. As we scan the board here, good night. Looks like Lucas Kuntz is going to represent the Democrat Party in the fall. He's going to take on Josh Hawley. That's not going to be a race, is it?
Yeah,
let's just talk dogs
yeah,
and
of
dogs.
course not. But I'm with you, Scott. I would have really enjoyed seeing Carla May debate Josh Hawley.
Crystal Quaid holding in, doing very well over my camera. 47-33. Again, that's probably not a ton of the first. I thought I was on with Alex Bryant on the radio this evening. He made mention that the first district is going to be very competitive. That's probably where this governor's race is going to be decided.
Yeah,
so
that's
the first
probably
district. Going down, Lincoln up still with now 705 out of 35. So that it's exactly 20% of the vote in. Huff 33, Wassinger 29, Rader 20. In that Secretary of State race, Denny Hoskins holding tight at 24%. Now we are going to bring in a guy who a terrific dude. By the way, before we do that, Michael Davis has won re-election in the Republican primary in Cass County. That was a hard-fought three-way race, but he ended up winning. Let's now bring in one of my better friends in all of politics, Mark Ellinger. Thank you so much for making the time. I love the backdrop.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
So right now, you're a guy who does do some legal work for Mike Kehoe. You got to be smiling, right? That green tie, you got to be straightening it and being stoked, right?
Yeah. Look at that. It's put our colors on, get out for the team. I mean, I think really, if you look at the results, everything's kind of coming in the way you'd want to be. To use your own term, Scott, I think the Roy Blunt push, I'd rather be in our shoes than in the other guy's shoes right now.
By a lot. Right now, we're 20% of the precincts in. I would say we're going to call this race here in about 15 minutes. Kehoe sitting at 41 still, Eigel 30, Ashcroft 23. Explain to me why Ashcroft, who I think most folks thought was gaining in the last few days, explain to me why Ashcroft is at 23 and not maybe tighter in there.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think you got to look at what Kehoe has done. I mean, he's been everywhere, and he's really run a positive race. I mean, much more in getting out and doing the grassroots side. I think you see that with that 40+% number that continues to be, on the board and never seems to go away. I really think that the issue you come down to is this kind of division inside the Republican Party on the right side. And Eigel has run a great campaign. Sophia Shore, who's his campaign manager, has done a great job. They've run a great race. I think the lesson is out of that is you can't rely just on your family name to win an election. And in the end, there was a lot of money that got dumped in, but most of that money was anti-Kehoe and not as much pro-Ashcroft. I think Ashcroft had the opportunity to put this race away a year ago and didn't take the opportunity to do that. And that hard work from Kehoe has really paid off. And the hard work from Eigel is the reason we're seeing Ashcroft now looking like it may end up in third place.
Mark, we're going to go to the decision screen. Can you hang on right there with us?
Absolutely.
The decision screen shows us, I think, what's going to be somewhat of an upset. Joe Nicola wins the state Senate primary in the 11th district in Independence. He will now move on to a very competitive general election against Representative Robbie Sauls. Mark, I don't know that everybody would have thought when this primary season started, I think they would have thought McMullen might be the guy. But
yeah, I think there felt like a lot of people felt like there was a win behind McMullen's sails, but it appears that that's not going to go. That's a really interesting district. I mean, that's a district that a Republican can win that has historically been absolutely a rock hard Union Democrat district. That shows that kind of changing face of Republican and Democrat politics now.
John, when you talk about this, if you were in the Senate campaign war room tonight, and you're looking at you're going to lose Boone County,
right?
So the Democrats going to pick that seat up. You were hoping you'd offset it in Independence and pick up Senator Rizzo's seat, and maybe you try to make a stab at Lauren Arthur's seat in Clay County. The Democrats try to reach if they have a big night at Joe Peerless in Chesterfield. But really, the 11th is where everything.
Yep.
Are you upset tonight? Are you disappointed that you didn't get your candidate?
I think if you're a Democrat, you're quite happy
Yeah.
about the election tonight when you're going against a veteran like Robbie Sauls. And I think too, let's not forget that we saw what was essentially a last-minute hit piece by the Kansas City Star. And when we say hit piece, that doesn't mean it wasn't true. It just means it targeted Joe and talking a little bit about his church and finances and campaign finance. And I think we'll hear a whole lot about that as we get close to the general election.
You know, Mark, when you really look at this election, you look back and you look at this, where these kind of set the board up for November. I think there's some folks probably in the Missouri Senate Republican Campaign Committee that are like, what are we going to do here? Not that they're not going to get behind Nicole and fall in line, but I think there's going to be some folks that might have rather supported McMullen. How's that going to affect November?
Look, I think the Republican supermajority in the Senate could be in question now. The loss in Boone County, which I think we kind of take for granted a little bit, and the way this race has shaken out in the 11th, I mean, there's a real possibility that Republicans don't pick up any swing seats. We maybe hold most of our own. We lose Boone County. If another district, particularly that St. Louis County district, ends up not going well in the 15th, you could end up with a loss of the supermajority, which, I don't know that that's, I don't think anybody in the Republican Senate Majority Fund would be interested in seeing that. But on the other hand, I think there's a lot of people around the state that might say, when you have a supermajority, you don't have a majority at all. And we've seen that work out in the Senate. And it'll be nice to see some of the folks that have created those problems leave because they're either termed out or have run for other offices. And it looks like, hopefully we'll get some numbers out of St. Charles County. That's the real key Senate race there to see if we have a functional Senate or not next year.
Shout out to my buddy Jim Gwinner, who's tutored in this evening. Let's talk about this lieutenant governor's race. Lincoln Huff was up 4 points on Wassinger when there was 5% of the precincts in. When there was 10, now there's north of 20. He's still up 4%, not nearly enough to make a call, but it's been pretty consistent with kind of it spread out throughout the state.
Yeah, Lincoln has run a very consistent race. I mean, I think he's done a good job. His campaign's been out in front the whole time with a pretty much exclusively a positive message about, getting things done in the state. And I think that I think maybe with the Kehoe race and now, with Huff staying up the through, I think that shows maybe people want, maybe they want their elected officials to do things instead of just blow things up the whole time. I do think, look, it's going to be close. We knew this one was going to be close from the start. We need the St. Charles County vote. It's shocking to me that there's, the last time I looked, which was a few minutes, political malpractice by the election authority.
Amen.
I tell you, I think you may be getting closer to seeing a Curtis Gregory win. We're probably about, stick by your computers and your screens. We're probably going to call that here in the next 5 minutes. I think
that would be a great win, by the way, Scott. A great guy, and he's going to bring something to the Senate that we don't have right now.
Jamie Berger in the Boot Hill looks like it's he could be on the verge of winning. It's pretty tight. The St. Charles numbers being out's a little weird, but I mean, let's be honest. What about St. Charles isn't weird?
Well,
you can say that, Scott. I don't live there anymore.
that Senate race between
Thomas moved back across the river.
That Senate race between Cristofanelli and Schnelting is really interesting, and not having any numbers and not having any feel for where that's at right now makes it really tough because that's a seat that could really give us a real flavor and influence on what the Missouri Senate's going to look like for the next 2 or 4 years.
All right, Mark Ellinger, thank you so much for the time. Hope maybe we can get you in studio later tonight. Is that all right?
I would love to do it. Sounds great. All
right, let's go to our decision board. We can now say that the numbers have been crunched. The election is done, and if we could go to the big board now, we'll see that Curtis Gregory in the top Senate race in this state, the most pitched battle in the state of Missouri. You had an urban versus rural candidate. Curtis Gregory will be going to the Missouri State Senate. Talk about a hard-fought race. I mean, this one is. Doug Ritchie put up a hell of a fight.
So my only regret is that you don't have Truman the Tiger here Scott, to help you celebrate.
Truman's smiling somewhere.
Truman is
Truman's
smiling
smiling.
somewhere. And then I also think too, like this is another race where we saw a lot of participation from outside groups. And I think a lot of the outside groups will be looking at their involvement in these races. We've heard of a couple races so far where outside groups that actually put boots on the ground might not have been successful. So are they going back to the drawing table after this election?
Let's go back to the decision board. The biggest Democratic primary in the state Senate, Patty Lewis will be going to Jefferson City in the state Senate, beating Pat Contreras. Patty Lewis will win the biggest contested Democrat Senate primary to fill Greg Razor's shoes from the Kansas City area. John, you know, is it the year of the woman? Because right now Crystal Quade's winning. They said it was the year of the woman.
That's true.
The party didn't so much agree, but they said it was the year of the woman, and now maybe the voters in the Democrat Party say it's the year of the woman.
And now, on the other hand, too, so think about this, Scott. We've had Pat Contreras, who I think was endorsed by most of what you would consider moderate groups, business groups. You have a guy that has a strong business resume, and then you have progressive voters almost universally lining up behind Patty Lewis. It would strike a victory for the progressive side. Now, I would dispute the year of the woman, though, Scott, because if you look at the 1st Congressional District, you have a proud member of the squad that just might take a tumble.
I tell you, I agree with that. That is a good corollary. I just think Cori Bush has defined herself. I mean, Patty Lewis, the fact of the matter is, to many Democrat voters throughout the state, no matter how hard you it is a huge state.
Yeah.
They see Crystal Quade, and they might recognize her as the most qualified, well-known Democrat, but it's hard to know a lot about you. Patty Lewis, going from the State House, hasn't been there long. Yeah. You know, a vigorous campaign, but I do think there is a certain segment, and we've seen this in other Democrat primaries, that they do prefer to vote for a woman, maybe this year even more pronounced after Roe versus Wade.
I think so, and I think that, you know, the pro-choice groups, many on our side would call them pro-abortion groups, have talked a lot about how important the election in November will be, and I think they have their voters ginned up.
John, I think we have Caleb Arthur back from down at the Ashcroft headquarters. Caleb, can you hear us? Can you hear us down there at Springfield?
Yes, can you hear me? No.
Looks like we have a little audio issue still with. No, there he is. Caleb, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Outstanding. Yes.
Okay.
Tell us the mood down there. I would assume at this point there is some disappointed folks, as now we're up to almost a third. Well, 25% of the precincts in. The Kehoe lead is maintaining.
Yeah. No, it definitely, you know, somber moment for sure down here. So it's one of those things you fight your hardest and you do everything you can, and it's just one of those things that we know.
Shout out to the Indian Outlaw that's joining us tonight, Rocky Miller. But with the way these things are going, though, if you're a Springfielder, when you're down there, you're a Springfielder, you got to feel pretty good. Lincoln Huff has maintained a lead. He's actually grown it a little bit in the last batch of returns.
Yeah, what's he up to? 3 or 4% higher?
He's up to 34-29. He's got a 5-point lead now. Holly Raider coming in at 20. Very interesting race. I think that was still too close. At some point, though, we're getting pretty close to this governor's race being finalized.
Yeah, no, we're definitely getting close. So real quick, I looked, and I hadn't heard you make an announcement. I've been trying to listen in while I've been looking. One of the guys I was pretty heavily involved with was Brad Hudson. Is that called for Brad or looking good for Brad?
You know, there's not been a lot of numbers on the Secretary of State's page. Hudson's not out, but we can go down through. Doug Ritchie has and Curtis Gregory won. Mike Henderson won. Patty Lewis won. Mike Moon was reelected. Rick Bratton was reelected.
David Gregory's in the lead.
David Gregory is leading. We're about to make a call down in the Boot Heel. Be ready to make that one. So it does feel like, and I really felt like, the truth is, I think Mike Kehoe personally brought so many people in that I think there's a lot of candidates getting elected in his wake.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Almost a year ago, he visited my brother's company in Houston, Missouri, and I get a text from Mike Kehoe, and it's him in a selfie with my brother, and I had no clue Mike was going down to my hometown. And he stopped at my brother's company, met all his employees, talked to everybody in town there, and then sent me a selfie with my brother. And I thought that was really cool at the time. But he's been working this thing for a long time. So
I think that doing a check, I do believe Brad Hudson is doing very very well. That one may be ready to go.
Looked like 60-some% to 30-some% in that state Senate race down here.
Yeah, he's doing very well. But first, Caleb, can you hang on? We have to make a call here. Let's go to the projection screen. We can predict in Southeast Missouri, Jamie Berger will be heading to the state Senate. A really tough fought race, John. I mean, this was back and forth. Jacob Turner is a name I've told folks to remember, ran a hell of a good race. Chris Dinkins did everything you could possibly do. John, it just feels like a night for those accomplishment Republicans.
I think so. Now, first of all, I'm surprised by the vote total that Jacob got. I know he's run other races before. I know he has a lot of support down there. And again, you look at our folks looking for senators who are going to go there to work, who have a record of accomplishment, or not. And I think that's the question in all these races.
And Caleb, could you stick around for a second? Let's go back to the decision desk here, to the 23rd or to the 33rd. To your point, if we can go back to the decision screen, we can now project that with the majority of the vote in, Brad Hudson, the graphic is wrong there, will be the state senator now from the 33rd district, replacing Carl Lesser, who's going to Desi. You're a Southern Missouri guy. Are you surprised by that? This district is no longer a Porter Wagner district. It's a Yakov Smirnov district, right?
I love it. I love it. Yep.
Tally, another one up for Southwest Missouri.
I was told it was going to be a neck and neck race, like as of yesterday and the entire time. So to see that big a discrepancy, that's
I feel like
awesome.
Hudson started off maybe in the hole, but he made time, right? He made up time quickly, came in, closed well, and obviously took home a victory. Give me any other thing from Southwest Missouri we need to be looking for. The Senate districts that are still out, the 23rd in St. Charles County, the 15th and 13th of St. Louis County. Anything else down in Southwest Missouri we need to know about?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, at this point, I think we're watching Lincoln pretty closely. I was big Aaron McMullen fan. Me and him are actually close personal friends, have been for a couple years now. When you called that one just kind of sank my heart a little bit. So that guy, he ran such a good hard race, and he left it all on the field. I mean, he knocked like over 7,000 doors himself. So that was hard. And then Doug Ritchie, I was close with him. So,
Well, Caleb, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We are going to be right back. Let's take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and we are going to, in the next segment, we will be calling the race for who is going to be the 58th governor of the great state of Missouri after this.
Progress wipes out jobs and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri.
Welcome back. Welcome back to election night in Missouri. I'm joined here by John Combest. John, we're about to go live to Vivic Malik, who was reelected tonight as the state treasurer. I think what we have is a live look at the Malik campaign headquarters right now. Here he comes. Let's bring in the state treasurer of the great state of Missouri, Vivic Malik. Treasurer Malik, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate you taking me on the call.
Think we can hear him.
Can you hear me?
He can count money and he can add up votes. I don't know if we can about the technology end of it. I think here we have him. Treasurer Malik, we can hear you now. Congratulations on your big win.
Well, thank you very much. It would not have been possible without the Lord's blessing. My parents who are looking down from heaven upon me and their blessings, my family standing by my side, and a lot of my brothers and sisters who I call my fellow Missourians, it would not have been possible without their support, their confidence, their trust, the faith that they put in me. And as you mentioned back in April 23, Scott, Missouri may be ready for an Indian American. You're right.
So, Treasurer Malik, when you came in, I think everybody thought there'd be some dirty attacks. I think everybody thought, well, how's he going to handle a hot immigration issue? You had your picture on every mailer. I have a whole stack in my office of mailers that you mailed to me. You put your picture on the billboard with Donald Trump. You took immigration head on. You ran this campaign in the most dignified way I can think. It has to feel good to win it the right way.
Absolutely, and I think that's where we need to move. We need to move to positivity. We need to talk about what we want to do. Look, I came to this country with $300 and 2 suitcases. I mean, I am so blessed to be here in America. I thank God for giving America. I thank God for putting me in America. It would not have been possible at any other place on this planet Earth, and I call America the greatest place on this planet. And that's what I tell my kids, that you do not know what you have. You are so blessed to be born and raised in this country, and it's up to you now. You're standing on the third base to make it a home run. You have a winning lottery ticket, and it's up to you how you use it. As long as you have faith, you have determination, you get an education, you work hard, you can achieve anything. Sky is the limit. And I am so grateful to all Missourians who put their trust and faith in me, and I'm humbled. Thank you.
Treasurer Malik, you've brought in your short time in politics, you've brought a whole lot of Indian Americans into the process. What's your message to your community about why Republican campaigns and why conservative politics is the place where they should be?
Absolutely. Look, I came 23 years ago, and as people attack me being an immigration attorney, but I did it the legal way, the right way. It took me 16 long years to become a U.S. citizen. We are a nation of laws and rules, and we need to obey them. You can come here, you're welcome as an immigrant, as long as you do it legally. And that is what my message to everybody, and to the Indian American community, and to any immigrant community. What I have seen in my immigration practice, 3 things. When you come to this country, you don't come with a stack of or a vat of cash. You come here, you work hard. You cling to your faith, whatever faith you belong to, and that's the First Amendment that gives us that right of practicing your religion the way you want. And third, these people have very strong family values. So basic tenets are conservative tenets. So any immigrant should be falling in the Republican side and the conservative side. And that's what my message has been to the Indian American community and all the immigrants. And I'm glad that we are increasing the tent and making the tent bigger for the Missouri Republican Party here in Missouri.
Treasurer Malik, the last weekend, this race turned a little dirty. There were some pretty vicious attacks. I saw some St. Page's guys got some stuff out on Channel 4 in St. Louis. I was a little surprised, not that it got dirty. I thought it might. I was surprised they waited so long. How'd your family respond to what was a pretty rough weekend of some pretty scurrilous attacks?
Well, it was a rough weekend, but I am glad that everything is now behind me. Everything is behind everybody. I got a call from Representative Cody Smith congratulating me, and
Classic.
I'm glad that we can put all these things behind us and move forward as one force, as conservative force, as a Republican Party, joint Republican Party together going forward in the November elections.
That Parson guy knows how to pick winners, doesn't he?
Say what again?
That
Scott?
Parson knows how to pick winners, doesn't he?
I'm not able to hear you.
I said that Mike Parson guy, he really knows how to pick a winner, doesn't he?
Absolutely, and I am so grateful to Governor Parson for what he did. I think it is the inception of what he did. You have to get a baby first, and then you can raise him. So what Governor Parson did was the right move, and I think he is looking forward for the party to be in the right direction by bringing in and more people in the party, increasing the base, and that's what we need going forward.
State Treasurer Vivic Malik, congratulations on your election.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much.
All right, here we go. Let's recap what we've learned so far tonight. In the Attorney General's race, Andrew Bailey will probably set maybe even a record for votes. It's in a contested primary like this. It was a big night for Andrew Bailey. Big night for Vivic Malik, who just joined us here. The state Senate, Mike Henderson, big win in the lead belt. Patty Lewis won the Democrat primary in Kansas City. She'll be headed to the state Senate. In the 11th, I think a bit of an upset, if you want the truth. Joe Nicola defeated Representative Aaron McMullen in what will be the most contested general election race in the state of Missouri in the fall. In the 21st, Curtis Gregory, Mizzou Tiger wins. The 23rd, and still out in St. Charles. The 13th and 15th are in St. Louis County. We don't have a winner yet. The 27th, Jamie Berger wins that race. Rick Bratton and Mike Moon reelected, and Brad Hudson, in a bit of an upset, wins the Southern Missouri District. It is no longer a district that's centered around Porter Wagner Boulevard. It is now Branson District. And now, I think if we can go to the board, it is time to call the race for Missouri governor. The Missouri Times can now project that Mike Kehoe will be elected the 58th governor of the great state of Missouri. John Combest, I tell you, when you first looked at the polls, he gave a speech in Blue Springs. I rode the bus one day. He said, nobody here thought I could do this a year ago. The guy cut down a 30-point lead by Jay Ashcroft. 30 points.
Yeah.
Then it became neck and neck. Then Bill Eigel surged. He played whack-a-mole. I mean, the guy with possibly the greatest backstory of any governor in the history of the state of Missouri, a guy that really, I think, could understand all parts of Missouri, maybe Mr. Missouri, won the governor's race.
You know, I think that from the beginning, Mike Kehoe has always served almost as the incumbent. And going into this, he knew that Jay Ashcroft had a very valuable name. But Jay Ashcroft wasn't able to raise money early on. He wasn't able to raise money throughout the campaign. We did see some groups come in toward the end to help Jay Ashcroft. Obviously, it was too little and it was too late. And as you pointed out,
how'd you like to be Pfizer today? It might be ducking bullets.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a big pharma guy today. But also, and 340B you asked about earlier on the midweek update, I think that's what Tito Landrum hit in 1987. I think he hit 340. But you know, Mike Kehoe was, I think everyone knows that he built a real coalition of industry group, ag groups, and folks that he had worked with hand in hand, whether he was on the Highway Commission or whether he was as lieutenant governor. And I think that in the end, it was that plus money was just too much.
And this race is still close. I mean, look, I've called these races for now. My God, I'm old. This is for 12 years now we've called these races. I'm getting your text. I factor it in. I would want to hear, if you're going to question my call, which, you know, there's the first time to be wrong, I would say put the miles on your F-150 that I did and see this state. I really think what you're seeing here, everywhere except maybe the very southern Missouri State Senate District, you're seeing victories for folks that want to do accomplishments.
I think so. And also
accomplishments over complaining.
But let's take a look at Bill Eigel's vote. And a year ago, and Scott, I've told you this before, when friends of mine sent me pictures from the first Bill Eigel rally, I asked them, is he still pretending like he's going to run? I didn't think he was a legitimate candidate at all. And for a long period of time, he was in single digits. And he spoke really to the grassroots group. And we use grassroots probably a little too often in the Republican Party to describe one sect or another. It doesn't mean anything.
It's almost
anymore.
like the grassroots thing sometimes gets used as like, who's the biggest martyr?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're grassroots, so we should be somehow get a special. I'm like, you're Republicans. Rub some dirt on it, right?
And also, though, when you look at where Bill Eigel started from and where he is tonight, I think it's a testament to his campaign and the issues really that he was speaking to.
By God, though, when you look at Mike Kehoe's life and where his life started,
Yeah.
and the fact that he's the odds-on favorite to be the 58th governor of the great state of Missouri.
It's not just a Missouri story, it's an American story.
When he called it the American Dream Pack, that wasn't pretentious. That was real.
Yeah.
Speaking of this governor's race, let's go back to the decision board. In a hard-fought race, we are now projecting that Crystal Quaid will be the Democrat nominee for the governor of the state of Missouri. In a race where the year of the woman that's been touted by many Democrats, it appears that the voters of the Democrat Party have decided that's the case. She really, I'll be honest with you, Mike Camera was going to run, then he wasn't going to run. He waited to file. There's a lot of folks that thought, why are you going to drain all of her money? Why would you do this to someone that's truly paid their dues, worked hard, especially in a year when every Democrat says the year of the woman? Well, I don't know that the party thinks that, but apparently the voters of the Democratic Party believe that.
And we asked earlier if Mike Camera flooding the airwaves, whether it's streaming or whether it's traditional broadcast, if it would be too much for Crystal Quaid and her longtime supporters to overcome. And let's be honest, Scott, again, she led Missouri House Democrats out of the proverbial wilderness. Scott, I can't even name the name of the Democratic House leader before Crystal Quaid. That's the kind of job that she has done, building her minority, winning seats year after year. And I will recall too, Scott, that she sat here at this desk and you asked her who she would least like to face in the general election, and that answer was Mike Kehoe.
I think it will be an interesting race. I think the two of them, I think there's a respect there.
And a civility.
A civility. And look, is Crystal Quaid the underdog? Of course she is. Yeah. That's just common sense. But I do think she has a chance with the abortion issue on the ballot, with the Democrat part of the top of the ticket stabilizing somewhat. I think she's got a chance to do what she did for the House Democrats. She inherited a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
She put a very good face on that. She turned that in from something that was just kind of a joke around town to something that wins races. They pick up seats every year, and I think they'll pick up seats this fall too. That's all attributed to her work. I think she's an admirable person, and I think what this primary really does, whatever she actually does, whatever happens in the fall, I think she is the by far leading candidate to replace Lincoln Huff in the state Senate in Springfield.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that her presence throughout the state on behalf in some of these close races, whether it's in St. Charles County or whether it's more in the western suburbs near Kansas City, Crystal Quaid will help carry a couple of Democrats into the House of Representatives.
That we just been told that there's some issues in St. Charles County with the collection, which of course there is.
Of course, it's St. Charles County.
If you're going to pick a county, they would be angry and do it poorly.
This is what happens when Rich Krismer is no longer the head of elections.
Props to you. That's just. I think we should toast our United Fiber Yetes on that one. Speaking of, I've got it 1 minute here. I have a gift for you, John.
Is that
as a thorough listener of the show, what I'd like to do of your radio show, you and Brad Hildebrand, I actually took a page out of Brad's book and I found these. I found Red Hot Riblets in Kingdom City. I want to give these to you.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate this. And when we go to commercial, I'll indulge in it. Now, you have a grape soda around here for me, too, right?
Well, what we do have is, before this is done, I want to see him eat one of those disgusting looking things. That'll be our that'll be what we that'll kind of be our closer tonight. As well, have you eat one of those and have your face try to hold still.
I love it. Yeah, zoom in. Have Kelton zoom in.
I don't know if I respect you or fear you. I tell you what, John. Why don't we, after calling that big governor's race, before we bring in any more guests, let's take a moment here, take a break. We'll be right back. Election night in Missouri, the American dream story. When we return.
Their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Primary Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farm.
To election night in Missouri, the precincts are coming in. These races are coming in and taking shape. The big news of the night, Mike Kehoe lives the American dream. Going from a young man whose father left at 3, going to a man who used to wash cars for Dave Sinclair. Then he took over a manufacturing shop in Osage County to become one of the youngest Ford dealers in America, to go run the Highway Commission, be a state senator, become appointed lieutenant governor, win re-election, and now take on a political dynasty in the Ashcroft family. Starts off the race down 30 points, but tonight he will be nominated as the Republican and the clear frontrunner to be the 58th governor of the great state of Missouri. Big news tonight. Hat tip to Mike Kehoe.
And I don't know if when you look back at the Kehoe campaign, I don't know if there's anything they would have done differently. And frankly, I'm not sure if there's too much the Eigel campaign would have done differently.
I guess the question would be, if Bill Eigel doesn't run, I don't know that Jay Ashcroft wins. But if Jay Ashcroft doesn't run, Bill Eigel might have won that thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think if it were a head-to-head contest.
1,600 of precincts are out of 3,500. So now we're getting a very good sense for where things are. To recap where we are, Mike Kehoe will be elected governor. Lieutenant governor race still too close to call. Right now, Lincoln Huff's at 32. The race is tightened a little bit. David Wassinger at 29. It's going to be Holly Rader at 21%. I'm getting a text from one of my favorite people in the world. She says, oh my God, St. Charles County folks are going to be very suspicious of those voting machines now.
Well, it's in their nature. I think so.
There's some in the water for you people. The Secretary of State's race. Now, we're going to go to the decision desk here. The Missouri Times can now project that Denny Hoskins will be elected Secretary of State of Missouri. Hard-fought campaign, came out of the state Senate, came out of that Freedom Caucus, made the state, he put the miles in, and the red jacket. John, I think a guy who knows the legislative process. Mm-hmm. He's been in House leadership. He served 8 years in the state Senate, and in a crazy primary that anybody could have won. Denny Hoskins, I think, put the work in, ran the miles, and also, I mean, you look at Aaron Dorr. I mean, the guy came in hard for him. The guy knows what he's doing. Denny Hoskins wins the Secretary of State's race.
And when you think about it, I'll be real curious when we break down these numbers in the coming days of where these votes come from. But I think one of the intriguing things about Denny Hoskins is he could be an outspoken member of the Freedom Caucus. And then when you hear him on the stump, he sounds way more reasonable than a lot of the people that you hear filibustering on the Senate floor. And I don't think anybody who listens to him on the stump can walk away not liking Denny Hoskins. And really, I think we should also note how well Shane Scholler performed in this race. I think Shane Scholler is universally known as a man who would have done a great job as Secretary of State, universally liked. I think most folks know that he is deep down a great man. And it turns out that Denny Hoskins was just too strong. And I'd also point out that when you watch Denny's social media, he focuses on the right things. He talks about the groups that he goes and visits. He gives shouts out to the groups that he visits, and he was all over the state, Scott.
He did. He did. He actually logged the miles. He did the work, and I think it paid off. I mean, look, this primary will be studied because nobody had that much money. But Denny, I mean, he traveled and did the miles, and that's one thing I think we're seeing in this lieutenant governor race, very tight. I do have an update on some House races here. A person I know, Carolyn Caton, defeated Chris Sander, 55-44. She was part of the Poop Gate.
Yeah,
she's been a long-time Jackson County Republican. Chris Sander, you know, a bit of a rabble-rouser in the Republican ranks. Carolyn comes in and unseats an incumbent in the primary.
Yeah, and I think Chris Sander, if I recall correctly from Lone Jack, had been known for raising some ethical questions about members of the House, and he was quite outspoken on that. And let's face it, when you engage in that type of those type of accusations, you're probably going to draw a little bit of heat from folks.
Well, and I think too, folks are more willing to let you do that if you're one of them. If you don't have a lot of roots there, I think they're a little less apt to sign off on some of the more, I don't know, eccentric antics, right? Mm-hmm. And I do think, look, there is a strain of this Republican Party that spoke tonight that says, hey, whining on Facebook's fine, as long as you're accomplishing something.
I think so.
Rick Bratton, no, he can throw a moan down, but he also had an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I think that race was, I think they passed the Rick Bratton re-election act when they passed that landfill bill.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. It was hilarious. You could see it happening, right? But it was what it was. So let's recap here. Mike Kehoe, we nominated, run against Crystal Quaid in the fall. The Secretary of State's race, who predicted the Secretary of State's race would be called before the Lieutenant Governor's race is called? That race has tightened up considerably. 31% for Lincoln Huff, 30% David Wassinger, Holly Rader 21%. Very close. I think we're about to be able to make a call in the 23rd district of St. Charles County. I guess they got the voting machines squared away. St. Charles County. We go to the big board, Kelton. We can tell folks that Adam Schnelting will be elected to the Missouri State Senate, representative for 3 terms from St. Charles County. He's a guy that's ran before. He's a St. Charles County, and it was a very tough, hard-fought race against a very well-funded opponent in Phil Crispinelli. But Adam Schnelting will be heading to the Missouri Senate this fall. It's a mixed bag, right? If you're Cindy O'Loughlin, you got to be like, oh my God, Brad Hudson, Schnelting. But you got to be, well, Curtis Gregory, well, Jamie Berger. Mike Henderson. So again, I think the voters of this state may have had a little bit of a mixed decision on what they wanted to do.
I think that tomorrow, when we read journalist recap of this, tomorrow and over the weekend, everybody wants to look for one key theme, like Republican voters rejected the Freedom Caucus, or Republican voters rejected intolerance. So that was true probably at a few races. And then you have a few other races that were quite heated, where you had a right-wing candidate defeating someone who was a little bit more moderate. I think the 23rd district is a perfect example of that, Scott.
I just think there's Republicans and then there's St. Charles Republicans.
That's probably
Might just be a difference there. The Lieutenant Governor's race is extremely tight. Lincoln Huff, his lead is narrowed to about 1.5 points over David Wassinger. That race is as tight as it can be. Tim Baker at 9%. I actually thought Tim would get some. Our friend Paul Berry at 2.3%. Matthew Porter, who dropped out of the race, at 4.2%. Right. I really would have thought this would have been the Secretary of State's race within a point or two. But Denny Hoskins pulled away from a crowded field. As we see more results come in, we're up to almost 2/3 of the about 2/3 of the voted. Denny Hoskins maintained about an 8-point lead over Shane Scholler. I always thought if that race in Secretary of State's would have got down to between 16 and 18 points of a winner, I thought Shane would win. And here we have Shane at 17.
Right about at that number, yeah.
Right about spot on. Some of the other races, we're seeing some of the House races called. If you want to see the House races, go to Missouri Times on any social media page. We'll give you a rundown of where these races are. A lot of interesting House races. A lot of Republicans were challenged in primaries. Interesting races coming down to the wire. The big race, though, let's take a look now. The 1st Congressional District. We still have the 2 St. Louis County races out. We're going to work to get you an update on those 2 before we go. In the 1st District, with about half the votes in, Wesley Bell 50, Corey Bush 45.
Wow.
Predict who's going to win that, John Combest?
I think it's going to be Wesley Bell.
Interesting. My assumption is some of the some of the latest voting precincts might be Bush precincts.
You think so? And do you think there's any reason why the Bush precincts would come in late?
Well, as a person who watched a lot of races waiting for Republican results, I assume you St. Louis people just steal the things. You just write in what you want. Let's look at the 3rd district here. Schaefer, with 208 of 312 in. Kurt Schaefer is sitting at 44% to Bob Onder's 39%.
Wow.
Are you surprised? But I'll be honest with you.
I am.
As a person that's known Kurt Schaefer a long time, as a person that I consider Kurt Schaefer a friend, as I think Kurt Schaefer may be buzzing around here somewhere right now, best I can tell. If I'm Kurt Schaefer, I woke up this morning assuming I was going to lose this race. And if I had to bet what was more likely, I lost by 10 or won by 1, I would have to say, if I was betting my house on it, I'd say he'd have lost by 10. Kurt Schaefer's not going to lose this race by 10.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the other curious thing that we don't have in front of us is how much of that vote that's still outstanding is St. Charles County. And we know from Bob Onder's previous races, Bob has not only run in that area before, but has been an elected official out there. And I think we can assume that more Onder votes are yet to come in.
Well, I think, again, these numbers, I'm telling you, don't reflect the St. Charles County numbers. Sure. So I would say it is well within the likelihood that Bob Onder wins this race. However, what is not well within the possibilities is a total blowout.
It's a blowout, right.
Kurt Schaefer, I think it's tough. We're getting some feedback from our folks out there. Bob Onder now has taken the lead. St. Charles County actually reporting in. It would look like that might do it. Kurt Schaefer put up a hell of a fight, but it does appear that it's likely that Onder has a lead that might be a little insurmountable. When I was looking here, St. Charles came in with about 12,000 vote margin for Onder, and the margin was about 4,000 that Schaefer was winning. You know, you look back at this map. Mm-hmm. I just don't understand why the Republican Party rewarded St. Charles with a congressional district.
Yeah, I think so.
I would just ask you why.
You know what? But one of the curious things that I think when
rural people are too nice. That's the point. That's
yeah, and you've made that point several times before. But I would also be curious next time you have Jonathan Ratliff back, who's a brain who I listen to every time he sits here at this desk. I would be curious because he has pointed out how well Blaine Lukemeyer is received in the district, how important that endorsement was, and I'd be curious to hear from Ratliff as a post-mortem about Blaine's endorsement, about the Trump endorsement, and about all this outside money and how much that played a role.
I think when you look back on this race, obviously, let's say this race is a 5-point race, right? At the end of the day. The Trump endorsement, I think, is a big part of it. Justin Hicks dropping out, I think, is a big part of it. I absolutely believe that Justin Hicks was on course to win 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
And a lot of that would be in St. Charles County.
Yeah, that was his base.
And I think that when you look back on a race that Kurt Schaefer's obviously overperformed in, it's the Trump endorsement started a cascade of events. But I think maybe the most important event was Justin Hicks dropping out of the race.
I think so. And when you read the Post-Dispatch endorsement over the weekend, you'll note that the Post-Dispatch editorial board seemed to not see the news that Justin Hicks had dropped out. And in fact, they insulted him for being a right-wing candidate. And you're right. I believe not only in geography, but also in terms of ideology, Justin Hicks would have taken votes away from Bob Onder for sure.
What an absolute big night with Mike Kehoe winning. St. Charles County came in. We have folks, we can now say, I think, with pretty good, Bob Onder will be the congressman. I think the Schaefer campaign is conceding that former Senator Bob Onder will win that race. We're still waiting for the 13th and the 15th. I think we're about to get those results. But let's go to the big screen. Let's do this officially. The new member of Congress for the great state of Missouri, the 3rd Congressional District, stemming from this studio right here, all the way down to Frontier Park with the greatest Oktoberfest in the whole state. Bob Onder will achieve a lifelong dream of being a member of the United States Congress. John, that's your area, that's your folks. Are you surprised they voted for Bob Onder?
I'm not surprised they voted for Bob Onder, and this goes back to one of the things that we've talked about before, Scott, which is when Bob Onder was running for lieutenant governor, it seemed a little bit like an odd fit. It seemed like those state issues and everything in the wheelhouse of lieutenant governor didn't really fit Bob's angle. And to Bob's credit, in the period of time that he has been out of the legislature, he's remained active in civic projects. He's been involved in conservative cultural fights. He's maintained his profile. And he is an unabashed conservative in an era in which you find a lot of Republicans apologizing for their beliefs. Bob Onder has been front and center in a lot of these cultural wars in St. Charles County, and that paid off tonight.
And look, I mean, if you could design a candidate that you thought would be a great congressional candidate in the suburbs, it'd be Bob Onder.
Absolutely.
I mean, angry, knows how to throw a punch, prety much just stays on the attack the whole time. Yes, 100%. Works his tail off. Great fundraiser. Yep. But if you got AI, right?
Yep.
If you were to ChatGPT and said, "Give me the perfect candidate to run in St. Charles County," I'm not sure Bob Onder would be right there.
You know, when we talk about AI, I've described a state Senate candidate in West St. Louis County as almost an AI type candidate. Like, he is such a perfect model out of central casting of what you would want a Republican West County candidate to look like.
Well, let me just tell you, I think the perfect editor would be Caitlin Schauhorn, who's watching tonight. Thank you, Caitlin. This is the house that you built, and we love you forever. I think I think the St. Louis numbers are finally streaming in. It does take a while. We have some updates. Mosley's up 58-41 in SD 13, but I think what we could do right now is go to the big board and make a call. In West County, St. Louis, Senate District 15, former Representative David Gregory will be going to the state Senate. Hard-fought campaign, lots of shoe leather. Mark Carter put up a heck of a fight. End of the day, David Gregory, a future star of the Republican Party, won a state Senate race. John Combest, there is probably no ceiling on David Gregory, is there?
I think that's true. And when you look at some of the attacks against David Gregory, and I happen to live in that district, in the last week or two when you get literature, it's about pretty generic attacks on David Gregory, pointing out a few votes that he missed, pointing out the fact that he works as an attorney and has defended DUI and DWI clients. And it seems that it was hard for these folks to make anything stick. I'd also point out that you did have two candidates who ran vigorous campaigns against David Gregory and certainly split that anti-Gregory vote. That would be Mark Carter and former Wildwood Mayor Jim Bolin.
And both worked it. I mean, look, Mark Carter's a good politician. And he worked extremely hard and had a big night. Pushed Gregory to the limits. I'll be honest with you, it's a little closer margin than I would have thought.
Yeah, and actually, let's give credit too to Jim Bolin's campaign. I believe Frank Catanzaro was involved in that campaign, and they ran a heck of a grassroots campaign as well. But I believe Gregory had the money advantage was too much to overcome.
So let's recap here. We believe Mike Kehoe will be the Republican nominee for governor. He will face off with Crystal Quaid this fall. The lieutenant governor's race, too close to call. We're going to give you an update on that after this. The Secretary of State, looks like Denny Hoskins will be the Republican nominee and the favorite to be the Secretary of State. The Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, he will face off against Eli Gross, who I like the hell out of Eli Gross.
I haven't met him.
A good dude, hustler. I like that guy. Andrew Bailey won an amazing win. Big night for Missouri, defeated Manhattan, beating millions of dollars back. The first race we called, would you have ever thought? $16 million dumped on the Missouri war hero. It was the first race we called.
And I thought it would have been much closer.
Vivic Malik will be reelected as state treasurer. Lieutenant governor's update. We're right at about a little less than 2/3 of the vote in. Lincoln Hub has grown his lead back to 32% to 29 to 21 for Holly Rader. That race is going to be tight. I think that's going to keep us in these seats for a little while. We need some of those riblets. Going down the list here. U.S. Senate, Lucas Kuntz will square off against Josh Hawley this fall. In the 3rd District, Mike Henderson will be representing the Lead Belt in the state Senate. Patty Lewis will be representing in the Kansas City area. If you ever go on the Plaza, Ward Parkway, a little further, all the way south to Cass County, the site of the landfill project that I think reelected Rick Bratton is all in the district that Patty Lewis will represent in what is becoming, in the two biggest primaries, 2 of the 3, I guess. So far, the year of the Wolf and Wesley Bell's still out. The SD 11 in Independence, Joe Nicola defeats Representative Aaron McMullen, which will set up the biggest fight in the fall. Robbie Sauls, representative, will face off with Joe Nicola. Big fight in the 11th. In the 13th, we're still waiting. Senator Mosley's up, but not an insurmountable part over Representative Nixon Clark. On the 15th, David Gregory will be going to the state Senate for West St. Louis County. He will instantly become one of the top politicians in all of St. Louis, and I think you saw the beginnings of an absolute star one day that'll be on a statewide ballot. We'll be talking about him at the top of the show before long. In the 21st District, probably the hardest fought, most contentious state Senate race, Curtis Gregory defeated Doug Ritchie in the 21st. In the 23rd, Phil Cristofanelli lost to Adam Schnelting. In the 27th, down in southeast Missouri, Jamie Berger fended off a spirited challenge from Jacob Turner to win that race. Then we mentioned Rick Bratton will be reelected to the state Senate. 31st, Mike Moon, will be reelected, and Brad Hudson will win. Now let me take you to the man who's going to be the Secretary of State, who'll be counting these votes the next time we do this show. Denny Hoskins, thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in on getting late on election night in Missouri. Thank you so much for joining us. Is that Michelle with you? I love it. I love it. All right, Kel, we got to get Michelle back up. There we go. Michelle's on the TV. Congratulations, Senator, on your victory.
Thank you. It's just been very humbling. I couldn't have done it without a lot of folks and a lot of supporters from all over Missouri, and it's very humbling when you travel across the state and see people with signs in the yard and people come up and that's you. Door to door for you.
Where the hell is that red jacket?
It's really been great.
I voted. It's on a different shirt.
Where's the jacket?
What'd you say?
Where's the red jacket at?
It's too hot.
It's here, but I may have to get a new one for the general election.
You must have wore that out. Senator, it looks like you just worked the state. Nobody put more miles on their vehicle than you. Nobody attended more events. It looked like you just earned it on the ground.
You earned it.
Yeah, most certainly. We've been to over 100 events since January. We worked all over the state, and I think that's truly what won it for us, is getting out and meeting with the people, connecting with the grassroots, not just sitting back here in Warrensburg and hoping people would vote for a social media message or something like that. We've been, like I said, over 100 events all across the state of Missouri, and I think truly the grassroots is what pulled down for us tonight.
Senator Hoskins, you're going to be the Secretary of State of Missouri. But I assume at first you're going to take you a break, right?
Going to take a break?
Yes. Yep. We're gonna take a little bit of break and take the rest of this week off, and then hit the ground running starting next Monday.
Senator Hoskins, thank you so much for joining. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Michelle.
guys.
I tell you, that guy, he had to earn his path
Absolutely.
to that office.
Yeah.
He had to hustle and work. I wonder if somewhere Caleb Brown's like, you know what, I could have done that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what Caleb's looking back at tonight. But you also think, too, when you look at the amount of criticism that Denny took, not just for being a member of the Freedom Caucus, but people chirping on social media, people mocking the idea about paper ballots and hand counting, and Denny took that head on, and he answered every one of those questions.
Well, and just the sports betting stuff. Those
for
folks
sure.
chirped forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I think it's cool that you see a guy who literally had to bust his tail. Denny Hoskins did not have the money advantage in this race. He didn't have the initial name ID in this race. That would be Senator Coleman. Speaker Plocker had the money, which I think is another curse of the speakership. Kenny Rothman still holds the record, the only guy to make it out alive to a statewide office. I think you see the person that actually, it wasn't the person that made the dumbest comments on Facebook, although Denny can work that Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really what was that margin of victory. I think he busted his tail.
I think that a lot of folks also sat right here at this desk that were guests on your show that talked about his sports betting position would keep him from winning a statewide race, and obviously it didn't.
Clearly not. So we have, just to recap, in the 2nd District, Dan Wagner versus Ray Hart. It would be a fun race to watch this fall. In the 3rd District, like Bob Onder will be headed to Congress. In the 1st District, it still looks like it's too close to call. Let's break this race down here in District 1. 279 of 656 in. It is still 50 to 45. Bell's margin is holding up by 5. In the tightest race in the state right now, the Lieutenant Governor's race, Lincoln Huff, 32 to 30. Holly Rader in 20. It is a very tight race for Lieutenant Governor. I have to be honest with you. I wonder, to me, I just don't know the Trump endorsement could have mattered that much coming last night. Huff has been up by the margin of error for the most part of this race. And tonight, still up by what would you call a margin of error in a poll. When you look around the state and see where these votes are, if you're Lincoln Huff, what are you looking for here down the stretch? Yeah, and I think we're getting texts in real time here that talk about St. Louis County numbers coming in that are obviously very pro-Wassinger here. I'm really surprised, actually, Scott, that Holly Rader didn't perform better. I thought it was going to be, I thought Holly would
have a little bit stronger performance in this year of the woman and being the only woman on the ballot in that particular election. But it does look like as more county votes come in, Wassinger is tightening that up in real time as we speak.
And those numbers we just gave you are not St. Charles. They have not reported to the state yet. I think we could probably go get a look and see exactly what's up. The Andrew Bailey margin, still 63%.
It's incredible.
I mean, to be outspent 5-6 to 1 and be at 63% in a two-way race. I mean, that's incredible.
Now, what's surprising to me, Scott, when we've looked at reliable polls, I hadn't seen any poll that showed Andrew Bailey with that wide of a margin, with a 30% margin.
You know what's amazing? And you look through all these, the first numbers we saw, maybe the second batch, and I'm talking 300 precincts. You had Kehoe around 40, you had Ashcroft around 25, Nigel around 30. That's what you had.
Yeah.
And that's what you have right now.
Yeah.
You look at this lieutenant governor's race, Wassinger and Huff were punching back and forth right about that. The Secretary of State's race, Denny Hoskins had about 22 to 26 the whole time. He's at 24 now. Vivic Malik had around 40% the first batch. He's got 40% now. The number of votes is growing, but the percentages are staying pretty much the same. Same for Bailey. Now let's look at where the votes are at. This will tell you some stories here. We're talking about this lieutenant governor's race. Where are the votes that are not counted? Now I know on some of these other websites, we're going to ask our folks to try to find out what the numbers in St. Charles County are. If they posted them online, boy, you talk about the conspiracy theories. My God, you people are going to cook them up. So in the first district, about half of the first district's in. That'll be very low impact on the lieutenant governor's race. Not a lot of Republican votes in that first, especially with a huge congressional race. Took everybody's attention. The second district, you only have 150 of 600 in. So 3/4 of the second district is out. That is David Wassinger's district. My assumption is there is a margin of votes that will come out of the second district for David Wassinger.
And if I could interrupt you, Scott, particularly in the second congressional district, let's not forget that David Wassinger's wife, Colleen Wassinger, was a member of the St. Louis County Council and has huge name ID in that area.
Looking forward to the third, you have about 100 precincts out, but that's going to a lot of that's St. Charles, which I assume would be part of a Wassinger coalition. The fourth district, you have almost the entire fourth district in. Those guys know how to count votes. Probably good Lincoln Huff territory. The fifth, not a lot of Republican votes, but you still have 400 precincts out in the fifth district. Again, not a lot of Republican ballots, but marginal. The sixth district's pretty well in North Missouri. Then the seventh district, where Lincoln Huff will be very strong. Most of that is in. The 8th district, about 60 precincts out. So, if you look at this race, if you're Lincoln Huff and you're David Wassinger, you probably would rather be, the precincts that are out, you'd probably be pretty tickled if you're David Wassinger.
I think so, yeah, particularly in West St. Louis County, and that's his base.
We'll see. We're going to stick with this race. We're going to stay with you until we have a winner in the lieutenant governor race. And then we're going to try to bring on Jamie Berger. What I think we'll do is we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll research the lieutenant governor's race. We'll try to find out in the SD 13 who won. We'll go from there. We'll be right back on election night in Missouri.
And for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone.
Welcome back to Election Night in Missouri. I'm joined by John Combest of johncombest.com and the BJ Show radio show.
That's right, 104.5 in Washington, Missouri.
Love it. I am a YouTube listener. I love the clips.
Thank you, Scott.
And I actually do. And it's kind of weird because when you have a buddy that has a radio show and you actually like it and you listen to it, I always don't want to text you too many like anecdotes and be like, oh, that was great or whatever. But I try not to. Now we have a guy, one of the big winners of tonight, Representative Jamie Berger from Missouri's Boot Hill. Representative, congratulations on heading to the Missouri Senate.
Scott, you called this one early, but I'm so elated to represent the people of the 27th District, and we look forward to serving.
Now, you know I'm from the Boot Hill. We call them early, and we call them right. I've never missed one yet.
Yes, you did, and you've been saying that all along to me as we'd meet and talk, and it was a little bit closer than what I expected it to be, but at the same time, a win is a win, and I'm excited about that.
Hey, I think right now, first thing you give a hat tip. Jacob Turner, he hustled, he ran a heck of a race. The guy's got a future in politics somewhere, just maybe not tonight.
Without a doubt, and Jacob is a fine gentleman. He really, really is. And like I said, he worked hard up to the end. But every time we've seen each other, it's been very cordial and the way it should be.
Jamie, when you look at the Senate next year, what kind of a senator do you want to be?
I'm excited about I'm an industry type guy, infrastructure guy. I'm an ag person and business person. So I think that's where I want to push the needle. I think we need to make sure that we create job opportunities in industry and farming and agriculture and business does that. And that's what I'm after.
So, Representative, when you get to the Senate as a Republican, there's two jerseys. There's the complaint jersey and the accomplishment jersey. Which jersey are you picking up?
I'm going to be on the accomplishment jersey. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'll look at Senate leadership at some point in time too. Once this all kind of settles in, I'll figure out where my pathway is. But I think I have a lot to offer to the state of Missouri.
A lot was made of once upon a time you were a Democrat. That was used against you quite a bit. The attacks may have been effective, but not effective enough, right?
Well, the thing is, most people that are my age or slightly younger realize at one point in time Democrats were as conservative as Republicans were. You couldn't tell the difference.
Oh, they were more conservative. The Republicans were the liberals.
Yeah, and no matter what your affiliation is, whether it be Democrat or Republican, the main thing is you got to be a conservative, and that's where I always was. And people finally started to realize that, and I had more and more phone calls. And I governed Scott County my 18 years as part of the Scott County Commission as a conservative because we didn't have enough money to govern any other way. And I was pretty excited about the opportunity, but being part of the Republican Party excites me, and I'm looking forward to serving in the Senate with other senators.
My grandma was a Democrat till the day she died, and if you told her she wasn't conservative, she might take her shotgun and shoot you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the way it was. And most people really down here in the Boot Hill and Scott and Cape and Perry counties actually realize that, and the counties to the west. So I think that's what brought me to victory.
Senator now-elect Jamie Berger, thank you so much for joining us here on Election Night in Missouri. Congratulations.
See you soon in Jeff City. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Goodbye.
Good guy.
Yeah.
You talk to that guy, and whatever his party affiliation was, keep in mind, everyone in Scott County was a Democrat. Every single person.
Yep.
Then it changed. Now they're all Republicans. But tell me that guy's a liberal.
Now, and remember too, Scott, you've made the point a little bit about school choice, and you've made the point the last few days about eunuchs. And converting eunuchs. What's your point about that?
Look, I'll tell you. I think this is not a very good night for school choice, folks. I think Governor Kehoe is actually a person that can accomplish school choice and has proven that. I will tell you, I watched him work in and out of offices. So on that front, the Singfield folks came in, and I don't know that Mike Kehoe could put this coalition together without their base money. So it's a good night on that front. But, you had Jamie Berger, Curtis Gregory.
Yep.
Both voted for the school choice bill.
Yep.
Berger went and whipped votes And at the end of the day, they started spending
didn't
money
support
against him.
Right.
And I think that's going to stick in the crawl, as we'd say back home. And
Yeah.
some rule guys say, hey, whoa, if we have to, rule folks aren't going to just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They have some backbone. It's not like they're from, no offense, but St. Charles. They're just going to do what they're told.
Yeah.
I do think that you see those races, those folks, it would have been worse if they would have lost.
Yeah.
First of all, the bloody shirt would have been waved. When you win, sometimes all's forgiven, but I think it's going to be a lesson. It's going to be the school choice folks were in such a good place. There's going to be a little bit to overcome of saying, whoa, so these guys voted for your stuff that you said was so important.
Yep.
And you still spent tons of money against them. I think that there was a couple missteps there.
3 months ago, they were living high on the hog, so to speak.
Yes.
And now it's not the best night for them.
That's my gut too. Is I think it was a self-inflicted error.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an error they had to make.
An unforced error.
Yeah. Now, as we come through here, some of the precincts are coming in here. Half the precincts in. Mosley is sitting at 61%. We could be heading toward a Senator Mosley being reelected. It looks like that's the likely case, but not yet. Again, one of my favorite people in the world, Camilla Peterson, chimes in. She says Kehoe actually accomplishes school choice stuff, and he does.
That's true.
I don't believe they get to 82 votes in the House without Mike Kehoe. I don't think they come up with a Senate compromise without Mike Kehoe. Having him in the governor's office is a damn good thing for the school choice movement. I think, it's when you've had this big victory. I've watched Kate Casas back when I remember calling her the day that Normandy went unaccredited. I was driving up Hanley Road to pick up my dry cleaning in Clayton, and the news came on the radio. I didn't totally understand what it meant, but I called her and said, "This is your moment. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You've worked very hard for this." They have built that out of this little beachhead into something that's going very well. If you had told Kate Casas, it's been probably 12 years ago, this would be your biggest problem, she'd have laughed and said, "There's no problem."
Yeah.
But I do think there were some choices made that and again, the school choice movement is bigger than just the Singfields, but it's certainly they're the leading folks. I'm not sure that some of I don't know how you go to the next crop and say, hey, vote for us on this.
And we'll be with you.
Or we at least won't be against you.
Yeah.
And then you might say, well, you might have told that to Berger and Gregory.
Look what happened in 2024 primary.
I do think it's a bit of an unforced error, but again, there's a great thing about winning. If you're Jamie Berger, Curtis Gregory, you might have had a very a long fall of being very angry at them. Most of the time they get over it when they win.
Yeah, that's true.
We have some information coming in. Wassinger has taken a lead. 94% of the votes counted. Wassinger has opened up a 6,000 vote lead over Senator Lincoln Huff. We'll go back and look through and see what precincts are still out, and we'll keep checking on the Mosley thing, the Mosley race. I believe right now would look like Wassinger's in a good position. It would look like Senator Mosley's in a good position. Can't really call it yet, but what we can call is, if you listen to the BJ show with John and Brad Hildebrand, there's a lot of talk about red hot riblets. And I gave John this because back when I was at Kingdom City getting gas, and of course getting whatever Casey told me to get from inside. So then I see the red hot riblets. I thought this was a joke. I thought this was like some forlorn
North
thing.
County legend.
Yeah.
Like a North Spanish League legend.
Yeah, lies is what I was thinking. But then I see this in Kingdom City of all places. And let me just tell you, folks, it was a corner display. It was totally full. Either they had just stocked it or Kingdom City is not the market for red hot riblets. John, I dare you. Eat one of these.
I'll do one right now on the air.
Let's watch his face, folks. Missouri, watch him. See if his face moves.
It's a shame they don't open, Scott.
He'll figure it out.
If anybody has wanted to say an Irishman, turn red.
Oh, here we go.
I got a big one.
Ooh, a big. Look at that stud. He's not even flinching.
Let's go to commercial. Stop.
You could hit the United Fiber Yeti. That, by the way, I want to thank everyone. United Fiber making election night in Missouri possible. The Missouri Soybean Association, thanks to Gary, Liz, Casey, all the folks at the Missouri Soybean Association, especially Dylan, who I really like, and Sun Solar, our friend Caleb Barth. Thank you so much for allowing us to bring you election night in Missouri. We are not done yet. Speaking of, it has been a darn good night for Mizzou.
It has been a great night for Mizzou, and you've been banging the drum a long time about Curtis Gregory, and you've even had Truman weigh in on the midweek update.
Kelton, could we get Truman tossed in here? Now that we're coming to the last half hour of the show, let's toss Truman in here. Let me see him. It's a great night for Truman. I keep him on my shelf. If you're Truman the Tiger, you got to like Kehoe being in the governor's mansion.
Absolutely.
Big is fly him in here. Nice. Dun, 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 dun. Big night for Truman. You have Mike Kehoe, one of his biggest donors, not his biggest donor, the Singfield family. She's on the
Yeah,
board
that's
of
true.
curators. Now you have Curtis Gregory winning. Big win for Curtis Gregory. You have a ton of folks with some comments, and Stephen Weber will be a good
I was
legislator.
just going to say, you have Stephen Weber,
Yeah,
a true
who will
son.
be very good at Mizzou. I think it's if I'm Truman, good night.
I was talking to someone, though, just outside the room who was a Missouri State partisan, and they were saying the Missouri State
Casey's very bitter.
is a far superior.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Truman, can you hang on the Truman for a second?
Absolutely.
I have to thank my buddy. So there is a bit of an internal struggle with my son, Gussie. If you know me, you know I have a son, Gussie. He's 8. He's the man. Shout out to my daughter, Millie, who's watching. Shout out to Gussie, who's watching. We just had a celebrity sighting. Jennifer Bukowski's in here. What we need to do is probably go to commercial and get Jennifer to come in on microphone. But I want to shout out to Ryan DeBoof. Look at this. He sent the pullover hoodie from Missouri State. He saw Gussie at his birthday party there at Faroe. This will be worn. This is a good sign.
There you go. There you go.
I was worried about Missouri State when they lost Cliff Smart, but this is the kind of Cliff Smart moves. This will be going to Gussie. I tell you what, John, it is 10:31. I say what we do is we wait a few minutes here. Let's come back. Let's see if we can get Jen to come in studio with us.
Great.
We'll give this a little more time. Right now, the 2 races that are left to call. I guess the first congressional race is still out. The 2 races left to call will be the lieutenant governor race, still very close. SD 13, Senator Mosley is leading. Give us a few minutes here to bring in Jen, and we'll look at these last few races, and we'll close out here at the top of the hour on election night in Missouri.
Moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal activity, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep
Missouri, we are now joined. I'm joined by John Combest all evening. John, it's been a hell of a good time. Thank you so much for being
It
here.
has been a fantastic time.
We are now joined by Jen Bukowski, one of my absolute favorite people. I have never talked to you or listened to a radio show you've done without thinking about something differently than I started. One of my favorite people to talk politics with. Mike Kehoe, big win. What do you think?
I think Gary Nolan called this one like a year ago. He said that Eigel and Ashcroft would split their voters and Kehoe would win, and that seems to have been the case.
I think it's an amazing thing what Mike Kehoe did. I think he truly, one at a time, went and worked Missourians, went and met folks, got them excited, then they'd go get their friends. I went to Sheridan, Missouri, and watched 400 people show up just to see him. And Sheridan, Missouri doesn't have 400 people. It was the time to rob a bank in Sheridan, Missouri, if you want the truth. I watched him go to Fair Dealing, a place that doesn't even have a bank. Well, I guess the bank of Fair Dealing, but just one. And draw 300 people. The guy just, I think if you look at Denny Hoskins too, the people that put the most miles won the races.
Possibly. I know Ashcroft goes to every single county every single year, so he's certainly got miles on his car in that regard. But he was.
Do you think though when Mike Kehoe goes
charismatic, and
somewhere,
a lot of people where I live in Columbia were for Kehoe, all hardcore Kehoe fans in mid-Missouri.
when Jay Ashcroft and Mike Kehoe go to an event, I think maybe Mike Kehoe was noticed more. That charisma you talked about. I mean, Mike Kehoe's a guy that honestly, when he gives a speech on TV or something, it is not like it's not the thing you jump to your feet at. But when you meet him, you're like, hell, that's a great. I always tell people, if the Capitol caught on fire, Mike Keogh would start telling us what to do, and we'd all just do it. But if somebody else did, even and including Jay, frankly, we'd be like, nah, everybody go their own separate ways. He's just that guy.
Tall person privilege. Yeah, he's got the look. Like people do. They've done studies. People look to tall people for leadership often.
Well, I would dispute that as my own personal bias here. But also, Jen, you've seen so many campaigns over the years. Where do you think Jay Ashcroft went wrong in this race?
I think you guys have pointed out all of the good points tonight. The not having enough money early on in the race hurt him. And then, I guess he just didn't catch on with voters when he was putting those miles on his car. And I think the really killing factor, which Scott pointed out earlier, is if Eigel hadn't entered, this would have been a much closer race, I think.
To me, look at the campaign operation. If I'm not sure that Jay wins, but very close. But I'm not sure Eichel doesn't win if Jay doesn't run. It's a very interesting race how it all shook out. And I think, too, when you look back on this race, Trump has taken on every institution, every legacy of this country has. I think he's made legacy candidates a little harder row to hoe. Yeah. Let's talk about the Attorney General race. Somebody you know very well, Andrew Bailey. The Washington folks came for him. They came for his hide. 16 million.
Kind of position Sharp will be available to be appointed to now.
John and I were talking before, I guess in the first hour. There's an old Garth Brooks song about unanswered prayers. And he's thanking God for unanswered prayers. I don't know how much Will would have enjoyed being drugged to chicken suppers in Cedar County. I do think Andrew will enjoy that. I actually think Will Sharp could be on the Supreme Court someday. And probably when he looks back on his career, maybe like, well, if I'd have won that race, that's a great path to go down. But I'm not so sure Will Sharp's path isn't brighter today than it was when he woke up.
Yeah, if he had won this race, then he wouldn't have been available to be appointed to who knows what Trump would put him into if he wins in November.
I mean, you study this type of stuff. To me, Will's the guy, the type of intellect that is a federal judge, that moves even into the Supreme Court. I've never met a Supreme Court justice, but Will has that kind of intellect.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's got a steel trap of a memory, and he's a very capable lawyer. And it's been ironic watching him because he's so pro-prosecutor, and I'm a criminal defense attorney. It's been ironic to watch him so successfully being a criminal defense attorney on behalf of Trump. So he's got a knack for it, but he's been getting results at the Supreme Court. He's been getting results on the gag order and all these different cases. The Missouri Dream Team that they sent in there is kicking ass.
Well, but that did not kick ass tonight. The Missouri War Hero kicked ass tonight.
But like on behalf of Trump and all the litigation against Trump, all the warfare, legal warfare, Michael Talent and John Sauer and Will Sharp have been kicking the ass of all the East Coast lawyers up and down the East Coast.
So speaking of attorneys, you're intimately familiar with the 3rd Congressional District.
Yes.
What's your take on Bob Onder versus Kurt Schaefer? Are you at all surprised by this Onder victory?
No, after Trump only made one endorsement in this race, whereas he made multiple in all the other races.
A difference maker, right?
I saw Kurt's lead fell behind. And it's unfortunate because now we don't have a mid-Missouri congressman. I'm friends with Bob Onder. I sent him a check when he was running for lieutenant governor. Right. So I know both of them.
Is a little bit better of a fit, wouldn't you say, for Bob Onder rather than lieutenant governor? Like Bob Onder was built to be a congressman.
Yeah, lieutenant governor, your job is to like be alive in case the governor dies.
And maybe become governor, as we learned from Mike Keogh.
Right. Yeah. So, it's kind of a placeholder. You don't really do that much. I think he'll be happy in D.C. Being a congressman. For sure.
I think Bob Onder is truly wanted to be a congressman forever, and I think this is his lifelong goal. That's great. I hope that Bob will remember west of Wentzville.
Yes.
And I think maybe it's upon folks like me and you to
when they split Boone County in half, we're not as important.
Oh, the map was awful. I mean, the map was a nightmare. It was a gift to Starbucks drinking Prius drivers. But I'll tell you this: I actually criticized the state Senate map, and I criticized the 21st. Judge Chapman, Judge Gardner, they knew what they were doing. It ended up being a map that could elect a rural Missouri person. The congressional map, I mean, it is a suburban's dream.
Yep. And so what does Bob Onder need to do for folks in mid-Missouri that really wanted a mid-Missouri congressman? What does Bob Onder need to do?
I think he needs to be professional, do his job, and not be a noisemaker that tries to do hits on Fox News And he needs to be supporting our Speaker, Mike Johnson, to get our Make America Great Again agenda done and not out for Bob to get on TV. And I hope that I see that happen.
You mean more blame Luke DeMeyer than Matt Gaetz?
Correct, 100%.
Jim Bukowski, I always enjoy visiting with you. But we have to go to the decision board here. The last state Senate race we're going to call is in. If we can go to the board, we'll say Senator Angela Mosley has won re-election in North County, St. Louis. She won her first term in a crowded primary. She fought off a spirited challenge from Representative Nixon Clark. She serves North County very well, part of a long legacy of Waltons and Mosleys that have won. Her husband Jay, still a House member, leaving office in December. She has won. That completes the state Senate alignment for the fall and for January. Jen, let's look down this roster here. The Democrat side, Senator Mosley won re-election. Patty Lewis, the Year of the Woman, won the Kansas City State Senate seat. Then on the Republican side, Mike Henderson from the Lead Belt, he won. David Gregory, I think a future star in the party, won. Joe Nicola upset another person I think was a future star, Aaron McMullen, setting up, if I'm the Democrats and I got to sit back and pick, I think I would have picked Nicola over McMullen.
Absolutely.
The 21st, Curtis Gregory, Mizzou. Truman comes through.
Nice.
He's a happy boy. One of his Cotton Bowl winning Tigers is going to the Missouri State Senate. The 23rd, Phil Cristofanelli, who I thought was a real future star of the party, lost in a very ugly race to Adam Schnelting. Down in the Boot Hill, Jamie Berger wins. Very common sense businessman approach from the Boot Hill. Mike Moon was reelected, Rick Bratton was reelected, and in Southern Missouri, Brad Hudson defeats Travis Smith. It was the voters sent a very mixed bag to the state Senate. I think if I'm in the conservative caucus, freedom caucus, whatever, I think I was worried this night could have went south. But when you bring in Hudson and Schelting, I think I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, there's no one big narrative that the media will have tomorrow. They'd love to come out and say that the freedom.
Did Cindy O'Loughlin do enough for Travis Smith? And
it doesn't. It does. I mean, I think conventional wisdom would be no, right?
Because I mean, her enemies were very coordinated to take her to elect folks to take her out. I think there's going to be. I predict you this. I think there's going to be a couple days, February, March, April, where she's going to wish maybe she had put a little more shoulder behind the plow on some of these races.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I feel like our party is really divided right now, the Republican Party.
Oh, it's just a dumpster fire.
We've had
of hate.
Yeah, all this hateful
It's the St. Charlesization of the party.
Races. Do you think Kehoe can show leadership to bring us all together and have unity?
Oh, I don't think when you run on the whole premise of I want to attack Republicans. I'm going to ignore the Democrats. I hate Republicans, and let me tell you why. No one could. If the whole point of your campaign is I want to make the Senate floor leader's life miserable, well, no. How do you unite people whose stated goal is to give you a hard time?
And I also think too, like, and Scott, you've touched on this in previous episodes, but today's Republican Party is much different than the Republican Party that we came up in the 1990s and the early 2000s. This is not a Chamber of Commerce type, Kurt Schaefer type Republican Party anymore. Now, Kehoe's win would refute that, but also it was a three-way race. I guess what I'm saying is that we came up in an era where whatever the Missouri Chamber of Commerce says, you were into and you were for. This is not Kit Bond's party anymore. This is Donald Trump's party.
Yeah, I don't really know what the party is. I was at the Missouri State Convention, and there was like a coup.
They hate each
and so
other.
where do we go from here as a party?
You
Because there's a
continue to
lot
fight.
of division. Yeah.
Everyone hates each other. It's the St. Charlesization. It's the Twitterization of the Missouri Republican Party. It happened in Kansas, and now we're officially the same. Do I think Kehoe's going to have a
You
honeymoon
just said we're
period?
the same as Kansas, so oh my gosh.
Probably worse, but yeah.
Oh boy.
I think Kehoe has a chance to bring some folks together. He's that kind of guy. Well, when you get in a room with Mike Kehoe, you just know you're with a serious person. And I think some of that it's on school choice. That leadership, he's the bull of the woods. He's Mike Kehoe. When he walks into the room, it matters. I think it'll matter again. But I guess just going forward, no, I think the fights are here to stay. I think that the next fight will be at the party level. I think the next fight will be, remember when Andrew Koenig demanded that the Senate Majority fund his race, and all he did was screw over the people that funded him. Will they be dumb enough to do that again on the 11th? I mean, I guess, fool me 7 times, shame on you. At which point do they let those folks elect their own members? It'll be very interesting to see what happens this fall. I really think what you could see is a very interesting decision. If you're Cindy O'Loughlin, Do you go fund someone whose stated goal is to make your life hell? It'll be very interesting to see. Shots en route and said, yes, let's fund somebody that'll vote for procedural motions to screw up the majority. They said, yes, kick me again. I wonder if Cynthia O'Loughlin is in the yes, kick me again camp.
Huh, interesting.
It'd be interesting. We're going to take our last break. We're going to come back and check on the Lieutenant Governor's race and do a recap of the night when we return here on election night in Missouri. Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening Missouri farmers' best defense against weeds? Our farmers don't need to be controlled. They need to be supported. Keep glyphosate in our state. Show your support at TakeControlMissouri.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Missouri farmers.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work.
Some politicians claim cockfighting is a proud tradition, but is it really something to be proud of? Cockfighting isn't just cruel to animals, it's cruel to humans. It's linked to organized criminal, illegal gambling, even drug trafficking. Leading law enforcement and Christian groups have spoken out and are urging a stop to the violence. But some politicians want to give cockfighters a pass. Keep cockfighting out of our state.
Election night in Missouri, brought to you by United Fiber, the Missouri Soybean Association, and Sun Solar.
St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
You know, Missouri farmers have been doing what's best for their land for generations. After all, no one knows what it takes to feed and fuel a growing global population better than they do. So why are trial lawyers threatening
Welcome back to election night in Missouri, our final segment here. John, this has been a hell of a night. Let's recap it. Mike Kehoe, elected governor. The American dream comes true right here in Missouri. Lieutenant governor's race. Right now, I'm looking at the Secretary of State's website. It is still, I think it's too close to call, really. Holly Rader, 21. Wassinger is at 30. Lincoln Huff at 31. There's about 3,000 votes separating them. But where those votes are, probably advantageous to Wassinger. About 3,450 of 3,550 precincts. There's 100 precincts still out there. Some of them probably less advantageous to Senator Huff than to David Wassinger. So that race is tightening. But let's look down the list here. Secretary of State Denny Hoskins wins a race that nobody could predict.
Right.
Andrew Bailey romps to victory against tens of millions of dollars of East Coast money. I mean, they all came after Andrew Bailey. He stood them all down. It almost, in my mind, it's like the Alamo. You had Bailey, Ketchmark, Holland, and Singfield holding off the entire New York cavalry. He did a hell of a job. Vivic Malik elected as state treasurer. What does that mean? Is Parson like 9-0?
I think so. I mean, it's
state
hard to argue with his
election
choices
appointees.
right now.
Throwing a couple for himself, he's been double digits. In the U.S. Senate, it's going to be Josh Hawley and Lucas Kunce. Lucas Kunce is an exciting guy. I kind of dig the energy, but let's be honest, I'm not sure Hawley's the significant favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure if you're Lucas Kunce exactly how you differentiate yourself. You have two white guys running at the top of the ticket. And, you know, voters have said no to Lucas Kunce twice. And first for a state legislative race, and then he couldn't even beat Trudy Bush Valentine in a primary. So I think we'll see National Democrats pay very little attention to this race.
I think that's probably right. Crystal Quaid, exciting candidate for if you're the Democrats, look, nobody is of the belief that this is not a tough race, right? She's got an uphill battle to climb. But you could be looking at a future star of the Democrat Party, and probably the biggest part of that being a star was tonight.
And as you brought up earlier, the idea of a really strong governor's campaign positions her well for state senate in 2026.
Let's look at the third district. Let's look at the congressional districts here. Looking at the congressional districts, it would appear that Wesley Bell has defeated Cori Bush.
Wow.
A major milestone moment for St. Louis. Just when you would assume St. Louis would have screwed this up.
I think so. Now, so Republicans won't have Cori Bush to kick around anymore. But
there's a lot of mail vendors very disappointed, and social media vendors disappointed by this.
I think that if I were Wesley Bell, I would look at my new friends at AIPAC. I might look at my new friends that have been Republican consultants helping him. And I think that honeymoon might be short. I think there's probably a lot. Wesley Bell will enjoy the victory tonight, but I think Republicans are going to put a bullseye on him, proverbial bullseye on him, coming in January.
I think Wesley Bell will enthusiastically celebrate Yom Kippur.
I think he will as well.
As he should. The third district, they lose one radical in Cori Bush, bring in one in Bob Onder. Jefferson City, a lot of areas in and around through central Missouri will be represented by the St. Charles physician, Bob Onder.
Well, I think that there's a possibility that Bob Onder could build some bridges there. We just asked Jennifer, and she said that the first thing he needs to do is go to mid-Missouri, meet with some of those folks. And who's to say exactly what Bob will be as a congressman?
Were you a little surprised by the margin? I was thinking this could be a much bigger margin.
Instead, what was the final number?
Right around, it's just right around a few thousand votes. I mean, it's under 10,000 votes for sure that's out there. So I actually thought, if you'd have asked me, I would have said, well, I might think this could have been a blowout. It certainly wasn't. It was a tighter race than I think a lot of folks thought. Let's look at these state senate races. Very mixed bag. On the Democrat side, Senator Angela Mosley was reelected after a pretty spirited fight by Representative Nicholson Clark. Then you switch over to the Democrat side, Patty Lewis in the 7th.
Yeah.
Pat Contreras ran a great campaign, a very talented guy. I just think you had a clique you had Emily Weber, Ashley Awney, that were out hitting the doors. Carrie Engel supporting her, Aaron Crossley. A lot of her fellow reps congealed around her. And again, I think there's something to be said. Democrats tell you it's the year of the woman. The party may not totally agree, but the voters of the Democrat Party do agree.
And I think also, too, it's a matter of loyalty. And I think that the members of the Democratic caucus were going to stand behind Patty Lewis in that race.
Before we get to the Republican side, I think we're ready to make a call in the lieutenant governor's race. Let's go to the decision board for the last time tonight. David Wassinger, St. Louis attorney, will be elected the lieutenant governor of the state of Missouri. He will serve in the executive branch. He will preside over the state senate as the lieutenant governor starting in January. David Wassinger will replace Mike Kehoe as the lieutenant governor of the state of Missouri. John, he ran in 18. He didn't spend his money.
Right.
He sure as hell spent it this time.
He
won a very tight race against a very talented state senator in Lincoln Up and a talented state senator in Holly Raider.
You know, I was surprised to see on social media and in newspaper articles, David Wassinger is originally from Hannibal. He made that a centerpiece of his messaging throughout the campaign. To me, this is a matter of if you do have a lot of money, Scott, you referenced earlier the concept of essentially renting your votes. David Wassinger, to a lot of Republicans, is still an unknown entity. And to beat an established character like Lincoln Hough, and a man who in Lincoln Hough was seen as kind of that old school, get stuff done, bring home the bacon type.
Biggest
Republican.
tax cut in state history, rebuilt I-70. I go back to, this is not a party that celebrates accomplishments. They celebrate rage.
And conflict.
Looking at the rest of these state senate races, on the Republican side, a very mixed bag. You have Mike Henderson, more of the accomplishment side of the party, wins. Coming down to the 15th, David Gregory, rising star.
Yep.
You will see David Gregory many, many times going forward. Very talented guy. In the 21st, Adam Schnelting, probably in the other side of the party, fitting kind of that St. Charles mode. Will be heading to the state senate in the 23rd. Curtis Gregory wins in the 21st, probably on that accomplishment side of the party. The 27th, Jamie Berger. You talk about accomplishments, a businessman that gets stuff done. A guy that I think you could discuss as a potential future leader in the state senate, in Jamie Berger. Rick Bratton, Mike Boone reelected, and Brad Hudson wins. Well, I think it'd be a mild upset in southern Missouri. So a very mixed bag. I mean, you've got your Hendersons, you've got your Bergers, you've got your Curtis Gregory, you got your David Gregory, then you got on the other hand your Adam Schnelting and your Brad Hudsons. I guess something for both sides, and I think Mike Boone was going to be reelected. I don't think there's ever any doubt. I also think that when they passed the Rick Bratton Re-election Act, I think it did exactly what they thought it would do.
And maybe this just underscores the fact that all of these elections are local. So I would make the argument that maybe an Adam Schnelting better fits the mood of a St. Charles County
No
voter.
question about that. When I used to think of St. Charles, you thought of Steve Elman, Tom Dempsey.
For sure.
You think of a different.
You absolutely.
A different view of a St. Charles County than you had before.
It's certainly not a get along and go along type of crowd.
You don't think of anybody smiling.
That's
They're
true.
generally angry. Now let's look at some of these other races here in the State House. We'll run these down for you before we get out of here tonight. Jeff Farnan, easily reelected at HD1. I don't know what he was thinking running against Jeff. In the 15th, Kenneth Jameson wins his seat. In the House District 19. Let's run down this contested, uncontested primary. The 28th, Donna Barnes. Carolyn K-Town in the 33rd. John Martin beats a young upstart and Bryce Beal in the 44th. In the 50th, Greg Bush. The 51st, Mark Nolte. Brandon Phelps. That was a huge fight in Warrensburg over you gonna yell, you gonna do things. Phelps in the do things kid. Michael Davis wins a Cass County seat that was heavily contested by Ryan Johnson, the guy I know, and a coach there. Deanna Self in 64. Marlene Terry defeats a former rep in 66. In 67, you have Tanya Rush will be heading to Jefferson City to serve in the Democratic Caucus in the state senate. Will join Ashley Ani's crew. Kim Smith wins a. I'm sorry. Well, no, actually, I was wrong about that. Janae Mosley wins a tight. Well, I'm dyslexic here. I believe Kenny Smith did win in the 68th by a very small margin. Yes, did beat a Janae Mosley. You're right about that. That's a very
Angela
interesting.
Mosley's daughter.
Wow, interesting race. In the 70th, Stephanie Boykin came in. Is she a former? Is that a former alderwoman?
I'm not sure. No.
Maybe a former committee person. Rachel Prouty wins re-election against Michael Person. It wasn't even particularly close. Then at District 75, Chantel Mosley squeaks out. I mean, 2,329 to 2,365. A 30-vote win for Chantel Mosley. Marty Murray comes in the 78th pretty easily. In the 80th, you have Elizabeth Fuchs beat Ben Murray 60-40. That is an old race. He ran against Peter Meredith.
That's right.
Elizabeth comes in and wins a little more comfortably than I would have actually thought, if you want the truth. Steve Butts, one of the finest people in all of state government, beats two challengers to return to Jefferson City. In the 86th district of the Democrat side, Jeff Hales will be heading to Jefferson City and will be representing the Democrat Party in the fall. In the 87th, John Rommel over Daniel Hyatt by a comfortable margin. Some of these are not particularly contested. The Republican side, Kenneth Abram will take on Michael Burton in a potentially winnable seat with Trump on the top of the ticket in South County. Flip it through here. Ian Mackey cruises to re-election without a problem. Phil Olerking dominates his primary, sets up what will be a very competitive race with Colin Lovett in District 100. Coming through here in 103, Dave Hinman will be challenged by Amanda Taylor, who won a very tough primary over Liz Callahan. In 104, you had Terry Violet coming in over Jeremy Lloyd to take on Tara Murray in the fall. Max Calfo in a bizarre race. This is the race that Justin Hicks left.
Yes.
It's had a bunch of weird stuff. Max Calfo loses to Mike Cosflow.
By 20 points.
Yeah, a significant race. John Simmons comes back and beats Kyle Marquardt.
Wow.
Takes the seat back. That I think could be said as a win for the school choice folks.
Yeah.
John Simmons coming back with some help there in that race. Justin Sparks beats Scott Odenberg 75-25. Cecile Williams knocks off Gary Bonneker in Jefferson County, beats an incumbent there in the primary. Phil Amato handles his primary opponent 60-40 in 113. In 115, Bill Lucas will be heading to Jefferson City in the Republican caucus. Dale Wright easily wins his primary 75-25. Becky, I'm going to butcher that. My hillbilly dialect will butcher this name. Becky Laubinger wins the primary in District 117. District 119, Brad Vanderman fights off a very spirited challenge by a wide margin of Rafael Madrigal, and I'm probably going to butcher that too. John Hukin, remember that name. John Hukin will be very successful. He won the District 120 that spawns Crawford County, Hannah Beer's territory, Hannah Beer Sutton territory. Jeff Fernetti and Lisa Thomas. Jeff Fernetti defeats Lisa Thomas. I think that's a surprise. Jeff Fernetti knocks off an incumbent, although if you've been to the lake, and let's be honest, who hasn't this summer, Jeff Fernetti stuff was everywhere.
Wow.
I mean, he blanketed the lake with signs. District 128, Christopher Warwick will be heading to Jefferson City on the Republican side. District 132, a tight primary. Stefanos Freeman will be heading to Jeff City, beating. This is the battle of the two hardest names to pronounce of the whole night. Bernaden McAfee loses to Stefanos Freeman. I think that's Stefan. Maybe they'll go by Steph, right?
It might go by Steph. And I think McAfee, she created a software company in the 1990s, I believe.
No question. Shout out to my buddy Blake from Farm Bureau. Big night for Farm Bureau. Burt Whaley will be heading to Jefferson City, winning a primary over Tom Franiak. Jamie Ray Gregg easily wins re-election in a very tight race. This surprises me. Zach Williams, a guy I know very well, comes up short to Melissa Schmidt in that race in Wright County by just about 400 votes. Comes up short. My buddy Kyle Wright is a big Zach Williams fan, just like I am. Benny Cook easily wins re-election over his opponent, 80-20. Tony Harbison, a guy I met in Potosi, is going to be a very good legislator. He's heading to Jefferson City by a comfortable margin in his three-way primary. Bryant Wolflin defeats Dave Soto in 145 in a very close primary, separated by about 500 votes. Barry Hovis comes in, and I'll tell you, remember the name Lucas Green. Lucas Green, this is the Jackson State Rep seat. Barry Hovis fought off a very tough challenge from a pretty impressive guy on Lucas Green. Then I told you before, this is a very competitive race in 148. The Scott County seat to replace Jamie Berger. David Dolan wins. Vinnie Club, Keith Elliott. This was a very tough race to replace Darrell Atchison down in my neck of the woods. Keith Elliott is going to Jefferson City, defeating Vinnie Club. In District 154, Lisa Durnell will be heading to Jefferson City. In 155, Matthew Overcast defeats Julie Aubuchon. 156, Brian Seitz easily wins re-election, as does Lane Roberts. Kathy Lovejoy, remember that name. Kathy Lovejoy will be a big deal in Jefferson City. I don't know what path she'll take, chairman, leadership. She will be a big deal. Write down the names: David Dolan, Kathy Lovejoy, John Hukin, and several others. I got to say, winners and losers tonight. I don't think school choice is a loser. I think that we'll see how it shakes out going forward. I would say, if you were Senate leadership, I think you had a chance to run the table, and you didn't.
And you didn't.
I don't think that makes you a loser. I mean, there's certainly, you had 4-2. That's 4-2 is pretty good. Ollie Marmol would shoot his mother for 4-2. I do think Ag had a big night. Agriculture, when you can elect Mike Kehoe, who they went all in for.
Jamie
Berger, Curtis Gregory. I don't, Andrew Bailey, who they put their shoulder on the plow for. Vivic Malik being a Parson guy. I think you're gonna have a very happy state fair. I think there's gonna be some very happy folks in the Parson administration getting to do it, sort of transition to the person I think, well, obviously who they wanted to have. I think that the winner of the night would have to be throw Governor Parson on that list. The year of the woman, Crystal Quaid, through tons of adversity, comes out and wins a very grueling primary. She has to start at $0, but at least she has a tomorrow.
And let's also think about the fact, let's not forget the 1st Congressional District. First of all, the best news is that race is over. And we're done hearing about it for a while. And now the downside of it is we don't have, as Republicans, we don't have Cori Bush to kick around anymore. And we'll see how much Wesley Bell does on the good government side and building bridges with Republicans.
So you'll be on the radio tomorrow?
I will, 7 a.m.
How they find it?
Folks can go to johncombest.com, and just for our listeners and just for our viewers, I will have a live stream link up tomorrow morning at 6:57 a.m., the time that johncombest.com is always updated, and folks can listen live to Brad Hildebrand and I talk.
Do you do the 6:57 because of when Raw used to come on a little early?
That's exactly why.
I love it. I love it
you
so
knew
much.
it, Scott.
So I'm going to be joining Pete Mundo in the morning at 7:30. I'm going to join my buddy Alex Bryant, who I don't know if I can't remember the bet, which is always a dangerous situation to be in.
Oh, yeah.
We made some bets on this. I'm afraid since I don't remember them, Alex is going to win them. But John, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much.
I had a
That's
great
fantastic.
time with you. Okay, let's go back to the big board one more time. Tonight, many winners. Tons of money, tons of texts, tons of emails, tons of social media posts, lots of yard signs. Lots of winners. Unfortunately, some folks lost. But I tell you, I think the winner of this night was Mike Kehoe, a man who didn't see his dad anymore after 3. Grew up in a very tough part of St. Louis, a part I actually took my son to just look around to make sure he knew that even if you come from a place that's tough, you can achieve great things. Goes and runs a manufacturing establishment in Lynn County, becomes one of the youngest Ford dealers in America. Doesn't stop there. Becomes the head of MoDOT in a time when they needed a steady hand. Leaves that to run for the state senate. Gets in leadership in his, I guess, 3rd year. He was in senate leadership. Becomes lieutenant governor. He was by far the only choice anybody could ever support. Then runs for governor against one of the great political dynasties of this state, one of the greatest names you could ever run against in John Ashcroft's name. Starts off 30 points behind. Whittles that down to a margin of error. Nobody knew what was going to happen on election night. I watched him speak in front of the firefighters and be very entertained. And the lasting memory of this campaign will be at Farm Bureau, the last day of the campaign. He shows up. They had a few people speak before him. When he came to the podium, they wouldn't stop clapping. The agricultural, rural Missouri folks would not stop clapping. It went on 2, 3, 4 minutes. He did finally get to speak and be on his way, but I remember the look on his face when they would not stop clapping. The ovation would not stop for Mike Kehoe. He's a person that engenders that kind of loyalty, that kind of love, and I really do believe Mr. Missouri became the 58th governor of the great state of Missouri tonight. Thank you so much. We will see you midweek update sometime tomorrow. I'll see you on the radio with Pete Mundo, then Alex Bryant.